Yeah, I gotta say the most difficult thing to ever do online is defend what the mainstream media is saying. It's very difficult, I think, to be the representative of actually, I think they were right about this, actually.
Today, we are talking to the legendary war reporter, Dylan Burns. How's it going, man?
Legendary. That's very, very nice intro you've given me. The man of legend.
We're hyping him up.
Yeah.
So what's going on, man?
True. What's going on? I'm back from Ukraine, so I guess that's good that I'm back. I'm in a safe environment. It's weird coming back. It's hard readjusting to like easy like American life, and like having everything it's impossible for me to clean my room now, because after like living in a car for so long, or like driving across the country, you just didn't give a fuck about that stuff. So I'm trying to readjust to actually like cleaning up after myself, and trying to just get used to like living near planes again, that's very weird, is to hear planes in the sky, because there's no planes in the sky in Ukraine unless it's like a Russian military jet or Ukrainian military jet. Right. So it's weird readjusting, but I'm happy to see my family again. I'm happy to relax a little bit. But I also, ever since I've gotten back, if I'm being for real, all I wanted to do was to go back. It's very hard to explain why. Because it's not like comfortable over there, especially now in the wintertime. It's very, very cold. But all I want to do is go back. I got the bug, so to speak. I got the bug.
Yeah.
Ukraine is calling for you.
Exactly. The mistress.
So, my audience doesn't overlap with yours that much. So most people probably don't know who you are. So you should probably tell them what your deal is.
Sure.
Who were you before you became a Ukraine war reporter?
Well, before I became a Ukraine war reporter, most people probably knew me because I hosted a roundtable called the Hippy Dippy Roundtable. It was a very big roundtable on Twitch. I hosted for 2 years. It had people like Destiny on it. It had people like Infrared on it. It had a whole host of different like Twitch stars and Twitch people, Vosh, on it. I hosted the Hippy Dippy Championship, which was like a wrestling debate style tournament. We had a lot of Destiny, a lot of champions, including Vosh, Destiny, and of course CTV, which he's an indie legend in my part of the park. But that was what I was most well known for. I also worked on some campaigns. I managed the mayoral campaign of my city. I've done some work on Free State, which is an LGBTQ+ board in the state of Maryland, the largest LGBTQ+ advocacy group in the state of Maryland. And I've worked a lot in local politics. I canvass a lot. I do my best to see where I can help on like local environmental boards and city advocacy work.
So you're a fucking communist. Got it.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Someone in the chat actually said that, and I mean, you're definitely more progressive than me for sure. I mean, you're not a socialist or anything like that, but you're definitely like a lefty, and I'm more of a centry. Yeah,
I'm more of a centrist. I'm like Elizabeth Warren, but with like less Native American.
Even less.
Yeah, even less.
That's pretty hard to accomplish.
Well, my family, of course, when I was raised up, like every other white family, I was told, of course, we were related to Native American princesses, right? But it never stuck with me. It never made me like go online and like, oh my gosh, how do I put on like a my family's headdress or something? Like I never did that. I never was convinced, right? I was never convinced by my father telling me, no, you were related to a Native American. I was never convinced. Never.
The best part is I'm actually 1/16 Native. So my grandfather's grandmother for real was Native. Yeah. And well, here's the thing.
Several times more Native American than Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, no, here's the thing. The reason that I know the story is like almost completely true is because it's not a good story, because the guy married basically his servant from back in the day. So it's probably not like a great tale.
Oh, it's not a fun story.
No,
it's like looking back in your family tree, and you're like a mixed child, and you're looking back in your family tree. It's like, oh, the reason I mixed was because one family owned another family, and like, oh, okay,
yeah,
oh, that's not a fun family legacy.
Yeah, it's like, oh, my family was German, then they moved to Argentina. I don't know why though.
Oh, that's so interesting.
I don't know.
Ooh, we'll never know. We'll never know.
Mystery.
Wow, why do we have the Southern family in the middle of Mexico? What's with this? Wait, what flag is that? Oh fuck! Did you know that like a ton of Confederate sympathizers just made communities in Mexico and shit in Latin America? It's
yeah,
crazy.
I did actually. Yeah,
it tried to maintain the Confederacy, but in Mexico.
I've heard about that. Like little communities with like people just like waving the Confederate flag out in the middle of open and putting them on cars and like at each other in like the Southern way.
They've got the flag, they've got the whole thing, but then you look at them and like at this point, like none of them are white, right? So I'm just like looking. I'm just looking at them, and it's just like, to me, it just looks like a bunch of people from like Ecuador or Brazil just waving around a Confederate flag, and I'm just sitting there confused because like their ancestors wouldn't consider them like of the race that is allowed to even fly that flag.
It's like that scene.
Whitest modern day white supremacist.
It was
Nick Fuentes moment.
Yes.
No, there was a scene in one of Will Smith's movies where he's like wearing a KKK robe. And he like bursts out of it dramatically with his guns out. That's what it is. That's what's going on there.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Clayton Bigsby moment.
Yes, that
in Brazil, there's a Confederate city there. Oh, I heard about that. That's right.
Yeah,
Val told us that last week.
Everywhere. Yeah, they've got the flags everywhere. They've like named it Confederateville or something, and it is just like the straight up like Confederate everything. They believe it's like the celebration of their culture or something because it was passed down to them by their great grandpappy, the slave owner McGee.
Yeah. So last week we had on a woman from Brazil who was telling us about all the protests and the election and what was going on down there, and she told us a little bit about that too. So that sounds familiar.
Do you think they voted for Lula or Bolsonaro? Which one do you think they voted for?
Oh fuck! Okay. Considering that Lula also has the 1.5 million communist guerrillas fighting the government on his side and has for about 25 years, I actually don't know. It could go either way. Fuck.
Confederate communist guerrillas is an interesting,
absolutely
interesting movement.
The great battle.
The great battle. Confederate communism is the new age. Look, if there's MAGA communism, we can have Confederate communism.
Yes.
Yeah, why not?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Anything's possible in this brave new world.
Sure.
Confederate flag was anti-black, not anti-Latino. There was that one black woman who was flying it. She was like really hot, and she had like a Confederate top and a Confederate thing in her hair, and she was flying a huge Confederate flag. And it's like, what are you doing?
I saw another one with like there was like a black guy wearing a MAGA hat, and he had a giant Confederate flag dragging behind his shoulder, and he was facing against a white anti-Trump protester.
Oh yeah, like a liberal, like with like a pride flag or something, and they're just like looking at each other.
Yes.
Fuck. I always wonder when I see somebody as like a I remember there was this news story back in the day of this Indian guy, just like he had like a Nazi armband and he was a taxi driver and he'd drive people around and they'd obviously see the Nazi armband and be like, dude, what the fuck? And then he would basically debate them on how Hitler was actually based and he didn't kill anybody. And I look at these people and I'm just like, why did they jump to this conclusion? Who introduced this guy? What was the Nazi recruiter that walked up to like, oh, you see that Indian guy over there? I bet I can get him into our cause. Like, was it like a dare? Like, how did they actually get this guy?
It's actually surprisingly common for some reason. There's like,
I can explain it actually.
India and Southeast Asian countries. There's like an entire clothing brand store in India called Hitler, and another one that was like an ice cream stand that was also just like Hitler brand ice cream cone.
Wow. Is wait. Do they have any franchising opportunities in the United States? Have they thought about expanding?
So the actual source of all this, because I know what the source is. There was a woman, I can't fucking pronounce her name. Her last name was Devi, but it was Savitri Devi. She was a Hindu woman, and she basically had this philosophy that Hitler was a Christ figure for Hinduism. And she was trying to link in some of the Nazi occultism and the use of the swastika into the Hindu religion and the Hindu mythos. And there was one of the races of people living in India are literally the Aryans, right? Like the Indo-Aryans. So she was trying to do some sort of like a new age Hinduism that was bringing the Nazis into it and making some sort of religion out of it. It was very strange.
Can I just say, out of all the conspiracies, at least this one, like, I can understand this one more, because if you're somebody looking out from the outside in, right? You're like, why the fuck is this Hitler guy using the swastika? Like, why is swastika, out of all the symbols in the world, why did he choose a swastika? And then you look over there and you see swastikas in India, and then your conspiracy brain just starts ticking. At least I can understand this one. I don't understand like the Atlantis people. I don't understand like the Great Mud Flood people. I don't know if you've ever heard about that conspiracy theory, but I can understand this one a little bit at least.
Here, I just pulled it up. Savitri was a proponent of a synthesis of Hinduism and Nazism, proclaiming Adolf Hitler to have been an avatar of the Hindu god Vishnu. Hitler was a sacrifice for humanity that would lead to the end of the worst world age, the Kali Yuga, which she believed was induced by the Jews, whom she saw as the powers of evil.
Wow.
My God.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Why,
and
why would he choose like a little German man with a funny mustache who then lost, right? Like, I feel like if you're given the power of God and then you're leading to like a bloodthirsty revenge wanting nation and you still lose, like that's a big L. Like that's a big L for your God if your dude lost, right? Like he has God on his side. Like,
Yeah. Well, I guess there must be some pretty strong demons.
The Kali Yuga is actually like the end of the world in Hinduism, because most religions kind of have like a end of humanity and then the savior will come and like redeem everyone. Most religions do that sort of a story. So she believed that it was Hitler and that he was going to through blood in Hinduism and the swastika redeem the human race.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that didn't really work out.
Nope.
Nah. Oh my goodness. Was he during Hitler's reign that she believed this?
Yes, actually. She was born in 1905. So it wasn't like
50 years later he was like, Hitler's gonna bring the end gaze. Like Hitler's been dead for 50 years, Grandma. I don't know what you mean. Oh my goodness.
Well, she kept up believing it until she died in 1982. Because she ended up being like the leader of some neo-Nazi movements in France, kind of like carrying on Hitler's will.
You know what?
Kind of like the QAnons. It's just like any day, you know.
And it'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
See, I'm not a Nazi. I'm not a racist. I don't hate the Jews. Okay, give me a round of applause, please. But the thing is, if I was in her position before I died, I would have just like booked a one-way ticket to Argentina, just to fuck with people. Just be like, wait, why'd she go to Argentina? Just to let the conspiracies roll. You know.
Yeah, it turns out that you know what? Okay, she actually had like the child of Hitler growing inside of her. And then she went to Argentina to ensure that the child would actually grow up safely. That's the lore now.
True. He's finished his training program. He's coming back in 2 years. He's gonna come back. He's gonna run for president of the United States.
Nice. Okay, so in terms of what you all right. In terms of what you actually do, Dylan. So I've probably when I first saw you, you were hosting a debate between Destiny and an actual Jake, where Jake got completely fucking dumpstered, and also you kind of seemed embarrassed because Destiny kept interrupting you with cage match. But that was perfect. The cage match idea was brilliant. I love that idea. It was a great idea. And I mean, I was Vince McMahon. I played a little bit into it, but the cage match works exactly as I wanted it to. Yeah, that was a really funny video. And
that's how every debate should end. It's just like, oh, you have a problem with me? Just fight it out in person. It's just like, show hands.
Yeah, fight it out in person.
That's the best way to solve the differences.
I'm going to keep things secret, but I'm going to tell the story that I know. I know a person who was friends with actual Jake in real life, and there was some sort of bad events that happened between her and their friend group that led to her like basically leaving. It was not a good time, and it's not my story to tell, but she was watching that and she was so happy because it kind of destroyed the trajectory of Jake's career, that debate. Like,
no, I wouldn't.
I think
say
so.
That I don't think it destroyed Jake's career. I think Jake has and I've always had positive interactions with Jake, right?
So humble.
I'm I don't destroy any careers. But the thing
Dylan's
is,
taking scalps.
I've never taken scalps online, at least. So the thing is, I think Jake is generally where he was about a year ago. So I don't think it destroyed the trajectory of his career, unless you thought he was he was skyrocketing to the top, right? Well, I think when he was his biggest was when he was with that Bible show or whatever, right?
Yeah, it was like 10 years ago, yeah. And yeah, to be fair, yeah, he has kind of been on like a slow decline since then. That's true. because his show was big back then, and it's not as big now. I have noticed though that like there's been a decline generally of BreadTube, and the decline always seems to coincide when either Destiny dumpsters them in a debate or stops talking to them. Because it happened to Lance, and it happened to Xanderhall, and it happened to Demon Mama, it happened to Vosh. So it just seems to be like Destiny's like the curse of BreadTube.
I always thought it had to do more with like election cycles. It had to do more with like who's in power in the United States. When Donald Trump's in power, it's very easy to be the opposition and to show why Donald Trump's ideology is fucking stupid, right? But then when he's no longer in power and you're dealing with the Biden administration, and while I think Biden's doing like, I don't know, like a C+ job, right? He's not perfect, but I think he's done pretty decent on Ukraine. I think he got us out of Afghanistan, even if the withdrawal wasn't perfect. Like he's decreased drone strikes by his Taiwan position is much better than any other president in recent memory. He's decreased drone strikes by 95%, which is something that I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for. But there's like also problems with the Biden administration, and it's a lot more difficult to stand up and show yourself as the BreadTuber to the crowd if people are dissatisfied with Biden, even if you have different beliefs about it. I think a lot of it has to do with like election cycles. Like the left is doing good when they're the opposition, the right's doing good on social media when they're the opposition. Like the right online right now is doing pretty well when it comes to viewership and attention and media. And I think that's because they're the opposition. And I think in 2 years, let's say Biden loses, it'll probably just switch around again.
Yeah, I think that's also part of it too. You know, and I know like Lotus Eaters, that's Sargon's news outlet. He's doing pretty well right now. You know, you got like Ben Shapiro's doing his thing. He seems to be doing okay. Crowder's doing okay. Like all these guys, they kind of all have their place in the online ecosphere. You know.
Yeah, I gotta say the most difficult thing to ever do online is defend what the mainstream media is saying. It's very difficult, I think, to be the representative of actually, I think they were right about this, actually. I think they were right about Ukraine. It's very difficult because it doesn't get you a lot of attention. It doesn't give you have to, if you're gonna defend what the media is saying about Ukraine, or say that I think the general conception about Ukraine is correct, which is my position, by the way. I think that if you're going to take that position, you have to present the information in such a different way that it's going to be interesting to watch. Because other than that, like people go online to alternative media because they want something alternative than the mainstream, right? Either because they're just a contrarian, or either because they don't like how the mainstream news presents the news, or because they disagree with what mainstream media is saying because the lizard people is what it's really all about. And so it's I think that's been like my biggest frustration online, is I feel like people want some like an entertaining kind of Tom Clancy narrative about foreign affairs and news than they want like just like sometimes a plain boring explanation of what happened.
And somebody tell you, no, the sky isn't blue. The sky is red.
It's actually
5 million views. Joe Rogan just booked you right now. He just announced. He just tweeted it out.
Well,
it's like air is bad.
Air's bad for you, it turns out.
You cannot breathe air.
Russell Brand just booked you after. My God, you're getting so many appearances.
So good.
So, like, I think that's definitely part of it for sure. There is the thought just left my head. It's gone.
Wow.
Wait, what was the last thing you said, Dylan?
I was saying how mainstream, if you take if you basically say the mainstream media position on something is actually the correct position.
Right. I remember now. Okay, so part of it is that sometimes things actually are kind of Tom Clancy like that one dude who was having sex with a Chinese spy. It's like sometimes life really is kind of like a story like that. You know, it's like, oh shit, dude. Like you kind of
know they had sex. Do we know?
I think so. I'm pretty sure that they had sex several times, actually.
I remember, like, you're talking about the Californian congressman. If I remember, so. they were close, but I didn't know for sure if they had sex or not. I don't remember.
I mean, come on, if they're hanging out after hours and the door's closed, like, what do you think's going on in there?
Obviously, they're having long, in-depth discussions about policy. Yeah. Thank you very much.
I'm sure. But like, sometimes you do get like a crazy narrative that comes out of these stories, you know. So I think when people see them in reality a few times, they think like every story is that, when most of them actually aren't. You know, most of them are actually pretty normal. You know,
but the thing is, I feel like
the government is up to some fairly shady shit, like MK Ultra, and
they're MK Ultraing you. That's what's going on.
The thing is, I think a lot of times the conspiracies, there are conspiracies or there are crazy shit that's true, but like that's still not. They don't want that crazy shit. They want it to be true about somebody else. You know, they want the crazy shit to be true about Zelensky. They don't want it to be true about somebody they might see more as their darling. See it like Vladimir Putin. A great example is I don't know if you know who Scott Ritter is, right?
No, I don't know.
But there's a million accusations about a million different politicians being pedophiles, and Scott Ritter is a former UN weapons inspector that basically takes the pro-Russia position on everything. He says that modern Ukraine is basically a pro-Nazi state.
Yes,
it's like
he got
basically
convicted.
modern. Yeah. The thing is, he's a convicted pedophile, right? And I'll see all these people come
Actual
up to me
proof.
and tell me, like, actually, like he had a discussion with. You can read the logs; they're publicly available. Where he's talking about this little like 15-year-old girl's like
Just read
private
it with
parts.
the Chris Hansen voice.
Yeah, it's like you can unironically go through it like Chris Hansen style. And
Take
he
a
went
seat
to
right
he went to
there.
prison because he wanted to have sex with a child. And the thing is, all these people who are super like, oh, Jeffrey Epstein, you know, he didn't kill himself, and you know, he worked with Biden, the pedophile. Like, then they're gonna cite me Scott Ritter like 5 seconds later, and it makes me think like it's not. It's not that they want to actually expose pedophiles. It's that they just don't like Biden. They just want him to be a pedophile. They actually they greatly desire for the more pedophiles in the world
The
than there
crazy
actually
thing
are.
is, I actually saw a lot of like pro-Russian people on Twitter. Basically, when Elon Musk took over Twitter and a bunch of people got unbanned, Scott Ritter was
Including
one
me.
of these people.
Yeah.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank God we have another child molester who
Back on
tell
Twitter?
us about Ukraine. Yes, thank
Well,
goodness.
Yes.
To be fair,
Yeah, everybody who's so worried about
And
grooming,
they were
so excited
just
to see
cheering
actual
it
child
and-
molesters back on the platform.
Yes.
Well, listen, TOS, he didn't molest the children on Twitter, right? So
True.
yeah.
He technically he only tried to molest the police officer because they were impersonating the child.
Oh, it was one of those like
He got busted. He got busted
Oh, fuck.
online. He was going. Yeah, it was really
they get some like short woman who kind of looks like she might be 16, and they have her like dress up young, and then he shows up, and then he's busted. It's one of those things.
Officer decoy.
So there's
Officer
this article
Decoy.
called it's the New York Times Magazine. This is the title of it, Scott Ritter's Other War, which fantastic title by the way. Here, let me just read you the start of this, okay?
Sure.
On a February afternoon in 2009, Ryan Veneman, one of the only 5 full-time police officers in a tiny Barrett Township in PA, decided to spend some time hunting for sexual predators online. By the way, I love the idea. Cops just bored. He's like, you know what? I want to go get some pedos. That feels like a fun hobby. Venman entered a Yahoo chat room where the minimum legal age is supposed to be 18 and passed himself off as a teenager named Emily. Before long, he was contacted by a man who said he was 44 and called himself Delmarfun for fun, just some dumb username. A reference to Delmar, New York, an Albany suburb about 3 hours from where Veneman was sitting in Poconos. And then Scott Ritter says, age 15. Aha, came the response, New York, PA. A graphic flirtation ensued. At one point, he asked Emily again if she was 18. She responds, no, I'm 15. He responds, aha, my bad. What's wrong? Didn't realize you were 15. So why? You don't like me? I do, very much, lol. Just don't want any trouble. After about an hour of this, according to logs Lenter presented in court, the man was masturbating in front of a webcam and announced he was off to take a shower. And then the person exposed that he was an undercover police officer. Like, you can go online and publicly read these things, but it seems like everybody who's so eager to call like Biden and all these other elites of pedophiles are super like comfortable citing an actual convicted pedophile.
He's on a sex offender registry too.
Yeah, he's a registered sex offender. Absolutely.
Details unlawful contact with minor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fuck. Man, that's wild.
Dude, I couldn't imagine ever showing my face publicly again if an article about like this ever was out there about me. Like I would throw myself in front of a train. I'd throw myself in front of a train.
Well, in terms of like people's seeking out, you know, these kind of alternative, you know, more fantastical stories, it also isn't just the right, you know, because the left did it in 2016. They were talking about the piss dossier and how, you know, Trump hired a bunch of hookers to like pee on Obama's bed in Russia, like insane fucking stories. There's no way that's true, you know?
Yeah,
I don't believe that for a second.
I don't believe that either. But I think there's a mistake that I see made all the time where somebody will go out and exaggerate the details of a story, and therefore everybody will say, okay, so none of the story is true. You know what I mean? A great example would be like the Russian interference in U.S. elections. People like Russia hoax was completely fake. There was nothing to it. Yada yada yada. But that's just not true. Just because Rachel Maddow didn't correctly like summarize the situation does not mean that the Russian government did not invest in the Internet Research Agency in order to spread disinformation in the United States because they want chaos in America, where they're funding both sides of a political issue just because they want to see us stab each other in the streets.
So there is one thing that I noticed when looking into the 2016 Russian collusion thing. You can even see like in 2018, you can see clips of Hillary Clinton on CNN saying that Trump is an illegitimate president. He never really won, and like just deranged shit. The same stuff that we kind of criticize rightoids for, right? They're doing it now. It's like, well, Jesus Christ, you were doing it back then. But at the same time, the Russians did try. They didn't like stuff ballot boxes or anything like that, but they did have some agencies that were out there pushing certain amounts of information on like English social media. They had their narrative and they wanted to push it.
Bought a bunch of ads on Facebook.
There was that one like
they did a bunch of spots and stuff, but they never really just like, oh, the Russians hacked the election, or it's just,
you know what?
Yeah.
As a leftoid, I will make the pledge that I promise to never vote for Hillary Clinton again.
Again? You did it the first time?
Yeah. No, I wasn't old enough.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't old enough, but I mean, I did, of course, vote for her illegally. But besides that,
oh, I see that. Yes. Oh, okay.
Joking.
Absolutely, but like,
not based to vote for Hillary Clinton at all.
The thing is with Hillary, and like Stacey Abrams is another example that is constantly brought up. It's something that really pisses me off, because you would think after seeing Trump do it so much, you would learn not to do that type of shit. Hillary, I mean, thankfully she's never going to run for office again anyway.
Yeah, she's too old now, and she's too discredited.
She's old. She's pretty discredited. She's shown herself to be like the only person who has lost to Donald Trump in the general election. And so I actually remembered having to debate somebody about whether she should run again, because now Joe Biden showed the path. No, absolutely
terrible
not.
Idea.
Stacey Abrams, at least this election, was like immediately conceded, which I'm happy about, because she was like, every single time I'd bring up like Trump, like with the Brian Kemp phone call, or like talking about how if he loses, it's rigged, all the way back in 2015. Like every time I bring it up, it's like, okay, what about Stacey Abrams? And so I do think it's important for, like, if Democrats are going to become the defenders of democracy, right? That's the idea. That's at least the narrative. Then they have to make sure that they stop people from, like Stacey Abrams, from saying, "Oh, this was rigged against me," or something like that.
Yeah. So Stacey Abrams, she was that woman who was on Star Trek Discovery for that one like bit role at the end, eh? Because they brought her in because yeah. So wasn't there also someone else? It was a different Democratic politician, also a black woman, but she lost a race, like not it was like a special race. It wasn't this recent round of races, but she lost some race last year or 2 years ago or something, and she said something about like how it was like dark money coming in to like.
How about Nina Turner?
Yes, her. Fuck, like they all this dark money is, all the capitalist dark money is coming to fuck up my election. It's like, no, you just lost because you suck. Like, not everything is a conspiracy, man.
The thing is with the Nina Turner race is, it is true. There's like a shade of truth to the fact that like during the end of the race, a ton of money just like funneled into her political opponent from like a bunch of people who didn't want to see Nina Turner elected, right? But what is often left out is Nina Turner actually spent more money on the campaign than her opponent. So it's, if they spent more money, I feel like that it's kind of hard to argue that, oh, it was our opponent's resources that led to our loss. It feels like there must have been other roles that played into it outside of like, you were just like a poor humble soul with not 2 dimes to rub against each other.
Yeah. Also, the way I watched that speech, it's old now, I don't remember, but I watched that speech, and she said dark money several times in that speech, and I was like, Jesus Christ, you are like a hair away from bringing up the Jewish question here. You got to be careful, because fuck.
Well, I think actually a lot of it had to do with AIPAC specifically. Like, she even because AIPAC, I believe, did give to her political opponent, and I think there was definitely some resentment towards AIPAC. There's a lot of progressive resentment towards AIPAC.
What exactly is AIPAC? I'm not American, so I don't know what's going on here.
The AIPAC is the American, like, Israel. It's like basically an Israeli political lobby that operates in the United States, and will, I mean, if I'm being very blunt, they'll support like candidates that are very favorable towards the Israeli state.
Right, and that's bipartisan, right? Left or right doesn't matter as long as they're pro-Israel.
It seems to be the case, yeah, and they'll support people against candidates who they think are not pro-Israel enough.
Right. Okay. No, I understand. Dylan, we're getting pretty close to the Jewish question ourselves here. You know?
Nah, I'm acknowledging. I mean, look, I believe the Taiwanese should have a political lobby. I believe the Ukrainians should have a political lobby. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Let's move on.
Okay, so to wind all the way back, you did Hippy Dippy. You were doing your roundtable stuff on Twitch. And I know, I kind of know that you at one point you decided to stop doing that because you wanted to do something else, and there was a narrative around you at the times like you were destroying your career because you didn't feel fulfilled by Hippy Dippy. Is that what was going on?
I was talking about online about how I really didn't know what I was going to be. So at this point, I kind of like decided that I was going to go to Ukraine, and I was like already in Poland, and I was still trying to host Hippy Dippy while there. But I was getting to the conclusion that like while I'm interviewing people, right, and I like show them like, oh, you want to know where you can find me? You can find me on my channel, and then I like bring up my channel, and the first video they see is like me debating somebody on like the morality around rape. Right, and I'm just sitting there and I'm looking at this and I'm looking at them and I'm like, fuck.
What is your take on this, buddy? What's your view?
Yeah, it's like, and the thing is, I don't think if anybody sat down and listened to the in totality of these things, that they would come out saying, "Oh, Dylan's disgusting. I don't want to be interviewed by him." But I do think that if you just see that title and you see that thumbnail and you see that shit, like
First
that type of
impressions is
stuff.
everything
Yeah, first
for lots of
impressions is
people.
everything. Definitely from trying to interview soldiers and government officials and like aid workers who want to be professional and have to be professional in order for them to be able to continue to do the work they do. And so I was very fearful that my associations online or the type of conversations that I've been engaging in online would impact my ability to do the work that I was very passionate about, which was going to Ukraine, going to Poland, and interviewing people and talking to people. And so I had this kind of moment of realization that like, fuck, if I really wanted to play this seriously, I gotta seriously change up who I interact with, how I interact with the people I interact with. And so it was almost like a kind of like stream and like content crisis about like, well, if I want to go in this more serious direction, which is a huge risk because serious content is dangerous because it can be very boring to some people and you can lose viewers. If I wanted to make that jump though, I needed to curate my content, I think, a lot more carefully. And that's why I have a second channel now. I have Dylan Burns TV and I have Dylan Burns Live, where I upload most of my kind of more edgier content onto Dylan Burns Live.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, people could think, like, from your old videos, like, oh, this guy's not a serious person. Why the fuck should I listen to him when it comes to war or serious issues? And there are also people who just like your older content, where you can kind of get heated with people, which is actually how I discovered you back when you debated Haas in person, and it's just like
I still like these debates. I'm gonna be debating.
Those are really entertaining.
They're fun, but I also, if I'm being completely honest, they're a lot more tiring now. When I talked to somebody before about Ukraine and to debate these things, like I was always very heavily invested in it. But now it's like when I hear somebody tell me like I remember Yankee Tanky when I debated him last time, and I'm gonna be debating him like shortly after this stream. Like he was literally talking about my friends in Ukraine and how their fathers deserve to die when they were like blown up and like killed by shit, and like talking about how they're just dirty Nazis and they all deserve all the crimes and shit like that. Like, and before it was easier for me to just sit back and just be like, look, this guy's discrediting himself, like this is the easiest W forever. But now like I get like genuinely angry, right? Mm-hmm. And that's like a side to myself when it comes to these debates that I've never really felt before, where I'm getting genuinely angry because of the things somebody's saying. And I think that's just after like meeting so many people and having so many like now I have decently close ties to the country, and I want to go back and I want to film more. I'm a lot more invested. I remember this actually was streamed, but I don't think there's a VOD that exists of it because the connection was so bad. But I went to like a Biden's rally in Maryland. It was like the day before the midterms, right? Because I'm involved in like Democratic Party politics. And while there were like these anti-Ukraine protesters. And what they did is, in order to cause as much disturbance as possible,
were they protesting from the left or from the right?
It's impossible to tell. They were just okay. It's impossible to tell when it comes to the anti-Ukraine folk.
Yeah, well, it's just if they're protesting a democratic place, I mean, they could be like really radical leftists who are just on the side of anything anti-American.
It
'Cause
could be.
But like
It's
that's my
impossible to
intuition.
tell with this
Yeah.
issue because this issue is very like it has a lot of bipartisan, insane like the insane people. It's a very bipartisan issue for them.
Yeah.
It seems with the Ukrainian issue, it seems like most of the people who are like either supportive or neutral on Ukraine, or at the very least opposed to Russia invading a sovereign nation, they're mostly on like the sensible, like in the middle ground. And meanwhile, the people who are just like pro Putin and pro the Russians raping Ukraine and killing, bombing hospitals, they seem to be like the extreme on both sides of like the extremes, this extreme left, and the crazy commie, the Nazballs type, the MAGA communism types, and then
Well, I mean,
there's the straight up just like right wingers, the MAGA people, and like Nazis and fascists.
if you want to understand why that is, you should just watch Kraut's video on the ideology of Putin's Russia. That is an excellent video. Yeah.
It's a very, very good video.
Yeah,
It's a very
Kraut
great
and
video.
I kind of shared our reading lists in private because I was at the same time I was making my 3 forms of fascism video, and Kraut and I talk pretty regularly, so we kind of like shared some sources. I gave him some stuff that I had on Carl Schmitt, so. But we both kind of talked about those videos, and we have some different opinions on things, but I consider Kraut a pretty good friend.
Kraut's been
Sounds
making
good.
fairly decent takes lately, especially on like Ukraine.
Yeah.
Destiny too, honestly.
Yeah.
Even though I
Destiny's
don't agree
been
with
good on
lots of
Ukraine.
things with Destiny, but you know.
Destiny's been good on Ukraine. Kraut's been good on Ukraine. I think it's really just insane people who have takes on Ukraine. It seems to be. It seems to always be like the complete fringes of society. But I was in the middle of that.
Yeah, go ahead.
And like what they would do is they would like one would start yelling, and then they'd get like shoot out, and then the next person would start yelling, and so they would like do that to cause as much of a disruptance as possible. And like I was getting very annoyed because I was trying to stream the event. I wanted to ignore it. But like after the third, I think it was the fourth person, like it was like right next to me. I like flipped the fuck out. Like I was yelling in his face, like very aggressively yelling. And like after and like he was kicked out. I was even asked to leave because of how much I flipped out on him. And like
Don't give him his coats. The coats.
Yeah, it was exactly. And so I leave. And like I'm driving home with my friend after, and I'm just kind of thinking to myself, why the fuck did I flip out so much? I didn't like hit anybody. I wasn't like threatening anybody, but like I was really fucking angry. And I realized that like I think the war had like a bigger impact on me emotionally than I had at first thought.
This was after you had been there, right?
It's
Yeah,
probably
this is
because
after
you
I've
know
been
the
here.
people that are on the ground, that these people are just these people who probably never been to Ukraine and never set foot anywhere close to it. It's just like just calling them Nazis.
It's the
even though
American
they've
way,
never
man.
known them.
It's the American
It's just
way.
Amen. Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with that. Like they were no longer like talking about just like a cause I cared about. They were now talking about my friends, like my close friends who I drank with, who I had hanged out with, I had smoked with, I had like, traveled.
They're not
with
just
and-
people on the news.
Yeah, they relied on me to like apply a tourniquet if they got hurt, and I relied on them to apply a tourniquet to me and help me if I got hurt. And so like to me, like I put a lot of trust in these people, and these people put a lot of trust in me, not only by letting me film with them and talk to them and go into very dangerous situations with them, but also because like we have to rely on each other to get by. And so for me, I just realized, like, I think at that moment, like exactly how much it had an impact on me. And that's why like it's much harder for me to have these debates now, because I basically have to like turn off my like a bit like my almost like my emotions while having these conversations now.
I guess to go back a bit. So you're in Poland, you're thinking of doing something else because you want to do something more serious than just the hippy dippy. And I think I might have seen a Destiny conversation with you, or he was talking about you or something, and he was saying maybe this is not a good idea because hippy dippy brings in a lot of money and it's kind of what you're known for. I know that the
I had to talk with Dan. You know Dan?
Dan. I kind of know Dan. Yeah.
I had to
Dan
talk
can't
with
stream.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was very much like, Dylan, you are a drama streamer. You've got a good thing going here. You don't want to like sacrifice this for whatever you're doing. It's most likely not going to succeed. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but odds are you're going to fail. Yada yada yada. And he was he was very much selling that. Since then, he's actually reached out to me and said, I think like you're making a good attempt at it, like something along those lines, like something more like nice and positive. Like, hey, like I didn't actually think you're gonna go through with it. Like, good job.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, like
Way
most
more than a good
people,
attempt at it. You've
you've
basically made like documentary style like war interviews and
Yeah. And an hour in, we're finally getting to that.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing though, because that's like Dan is technically correct in that most people who have a dream don't achieve them, right? It's like this, the odds are against you for anything, you know.
Absolutely.
But still though, when you make it, you make it. It's always nice to see. I guess why Ukraine war reporting specifically? Why when you were sitting there and you were thinking, what should I do that is not the hippy dippy? Why did you choose this route specifically?
When you said this route, like, why did I decide to go to Ukraine?
Yes.
So the war was progressing at the start of it, and I was still in Maryland at the time, and in my apartment, and I was living on my own. I didn't have a lot of things really keeping me down, like attached down. This is except for like college, and so as the war progressed, what I realized is I was actually making a tremendous amount of money streaming about the war. I don't know if you remember the early days of the war and what like streaming on Twitch or YouTube was like, but everybody was just like watching like the live 24 camera in like Kiev, just like waiting for like an explosion to happen, waiting for like tanks to just march into the capital, for something to happen. Like Stardust was doing it, like Actual Jake, Vosh, like Destiny, like everybody was doing it because it was like a big historical moment. And everybody thought Ukraine would kind of fall quickly. Then Ukraine didn't fall quickly, and I continued to stream about it. And as everybody else like stopped streaming about it slowly because it was no longer bringing in the viewership, I continued doing it. And during those early stages, I made a significant chunk of change. Like for me, it was like $10,000 or something, right? Which for me, that's a lot of money. It might not be like a lot of money for like a lot of bigger content creators, but I'm 21, so it was like a lot of money, right? And so I decided, like, it feels pretty weird to sit here and be like, thank you, Ebony420, Blaze It, for the $100. Let's watch this another person's life end quickly. And then we go to the next clip of like watching a tank explode, right? It felt weird. And I felt if people were trusting me with so much money to do good coverage, maybe because I was like more like concentrated on it and I was like doing research off stream and I was doing good enough coverage and that's why I was getting donations, that I feel like I can continue to improve it. And I think for me, like the most obvious path was like, well, if I want to cover the war better, I should probably be there. And I decided that, I cared about this enough, even though I knew that it wasn't going to make me a lot of money. And it definitely ended up being like a sunk cost thing for me. Like I lost a decent amount of money on this. I cared about it enough and I was invested enough in this, like what I believe is like the front line for the struggle of democracy worldwide. I believed in it enough that I was willing to go there myself and film and try to help in any way I could with aid if given the opportunity.
Right. So, to your credit, most people who were just sitting there and taking the super chats wouldn't have thought to do that, And like I'm not going to say any names because that's just rude, but most people who were doing the same thing that you were doing, which is just watching the clips and watching the streams and taking the money, they're now just watching clips and streams and taking money for the next news cycle. But you decided to go, so that does it. When Dan was saying you are statistically not likely to make it, one of the things that separates someone who makes it and someone who doesn't is actually going out and doing it,
Yeah, you said I don't care. I want to do the thing that I want to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I want to go to the ground, and talk to and interview the people there, and maybe do some aid work, and which you did.
Yeah. I guess for a lot of people, the it's kind of hard to imagine going to a war zone. It's because like, how do you get into a war zone? How do you prep to go to a war zone? Who do you get in contact with? How do you build contacts on the ground? And this was stuff I worked decently hard building up, leading up to my trip. Was not only trying to figure out exactly like what type of stuff I needed to bring with me, what type of stuff I needed to get while I was there, who did I need to know, but unironically, 95% of it was just meeting people. 95% of the work for me was meeting people, getting good contacts, and those contacts then giving me opportunities. Unironically, I went to the front line exceptionally fast. I never even thought I was going to go to the front line, but it was because of contacts I met in Lviv, like aid workers and reporters, that once the opportunity showed itself, like I instantly took it. And I didn't even, and the thing is, that trip wasn't even supposed to be to the front line, but when we got there, the soldiers offered it. And of course, we took the opportunity. A lot of it's being in the right place at the right time and just like making the connections. That's why I'm kind of excited to go back, because now that I've been there and I've kind of like learned the hard way, had like that kind of like test of figuring out how camera work is done, figuring out how to meet these people and how to like interact with local customs. Going back next time, I think I'm going to be able to do better work as long as I can line up some good interviews.
Right. So
Did you have to find a fixer of sorts when you?
Oh yeah, I have
what's a
fixers.
fixer? What is that? What's a fixer?
A fixer is somebody who gets you something, right? That's generally what a fixer is supposed to be. In prison, there's fixers. Everywhere, there's fixers.
Oh, so
In a
grips on
war
a film studio kind of thing.
zone,
No,
kind of.
like
I'm a film guy, okay? I'm a film guy.
That's okay. But you've at least watched like Vice documentaries, right, Dev?
Yeah, I've watched.
I've seen some Vice stuff. I've seen like Project Veritas. I kind of watch all over the spectrum. So I see what people do when they're like doing undercover stuff, doing reporting, doing all this stuff. You know.
So
yeah.
fixers, like I met
Explain it
I met the fixers are basically people who get you things. For like in a prison, that could be like getting you like cigarettes or something like that. In my example, a fixer is somebody who can get me a good interview, who can get me a good embed, get me a ride to a location, get me equipment, stuff like that. I was able to basically find organizations that'll get me equipment. That was the easy part. The hard part was these opportunities, just like showing their heads and finding people who can get me to these locations. I was able to eventually, and it was always the Poles. The Poles were always the people who got me the connections. Always,
Nice.
if you ever need to find something, just find a local Polish man and ask him. He'll probably know.
Yep.
Exactly.
They are just waiting to hit Article 5, dude. They have their hand on the button. They're like, just do it.
Absolutely.
Just fucking do it. Just fucking do it.
I actually got an opportunity to go close to the front before I had even gotten my press like verification from the government.
Yeah.
My press pass from the Ministry of Defense, which is what you need to get if you want to operate as a journalist in the country. And so I was on the road to the first location when I got emailed my press pass, and that's why for the rest of my time in Ukraine, every time they asked for my information, I had to take out my phone and just show them the images from the email. And it worked. It worked though.
So, okay. You've decided to go to Ukraine because you feel like maybe you have some sort of moral responsibility since you're streaming and making money off of their suffering, so you're going to go and try to report on the ground.
Yep.
What steps did you actually have to take? Like, who did you have to meet? Did you have to, like, who in the government did you have to call? Like how did what's the actual process of going
like,
from
where did you
Maryland?
stayed?
Yeah, from Maryland to Ukraine.
So I guess for me, like the first thing I did is I called a bunch of people who I know have been involved in conflict reporting and just like asking them for just general tips and tricks and stuff like that. Which was helpful to give me an idea of what I was going to be dealing with, what to expect, what risks I was like accepting by doing this trip. I had those conversations before I ever even finalized anything, because if I learned that I had to do something I didn't want to do or I wasn't willing to do, then obviously I can't like plan to go. After having those conversations, I started trying to like build a general price range about like what is accommodations going to be like in Ukraine. I never knew how unbelievably cheap it was actually going to be compared to American prices. I like the idea of like foreign economy still boggles me, that I can like make $10,000 here and I could probably live in Thailand for who knows how long, just completely just like living the good life if I really wanted to. So
Well,
like
let's do that.
Yeah, you're gonna go live like a Hot Wheels life, basically.
Exactly. And so like I talked to some people on the ground, made contacts that I could like people who could pick me up and bring me to Lviv in Ukraine. So I know people in the area, so if I get hurt, they can call family members, stuff like that. Talking to journalists who are already there, like Patrick Hillsman, who was a huge help for me early on. He's done a little bit of work in Aleppo. He actually had a piece from Ukraine covering like animals that have been hurt by the war that was recently played on PBS, if anybody wanted to go check that out. He gave me a lot of tips and he got me in contact with a lot of people like Pavel and Philip, these two Polish guys who were immense help during my time in Ukraine. I think, but the thing is, like, entering Ukraine was probably the easiest part for me, because you just it's like any other border. I mean, obviously they have tight security, but I just went in. I said, I'm here to do journalism. And you're like, do you have your press pass yet? Nope. Okay. Have a nice day. It's really just that.
Wait.
They didn't even check my stuff. They didn't even look through my bags. They just let me through.
They
Jesus.
didn't
Early
even
on.
ask, "Are you Russian spy?"
I actually straight up, what's the word when you're on the side of the road and you got your thumb like?
You're hitchhiking.
I hitchhiked across the border.
Really?
I went to the
Wow.
border and I just hitchhiked, and 2 Belarusian journalists allowed me to get in their van and cross with my stuff. Yeah. It was I was very lucky that I had I guess a cute enough smile to convince the Belarusians to let me in and join them as I crossed the border. Then I was picked up on the other side by friends, and well, the rest is history. I went to Lviv, stayed there for a bit till I got my first opportunity. My first opportunity was to go to Zaporozhye. I got my press pass right in time as I was headed towards the city gates, and then I was able to do the work that I did there. And I ended up filming on the front line, which was not at all the original plan when I went into the country, but I got the opportunity and I took it.
What would you have done if you weren't lucky and you didn't get somebody to hitchhike you?
Well, smugglers are no, actually. I
Coyotes.
I would have. I don't think there's any scenario in my mind where I didn't end up going into Ukraine. Like, I would have found some way to get into the country, whether I would have to become an aid worker to do it, or if I had to find out like I had to buy a $300-$400 car to drive across the border, which that's actually what a few of my friends actually had to do. We drove around in the Skoda so much in Ukraine. The Skoda with the suspensions completely destroyed, $200 car. We traveled in that for most of the time across the whole country. It didn't have air conditioning. It was atrocious, but that was our home in that little Skoda. So I think I would have found some way to get into the country because I was very, very determined to do it. That's why I felt comfortable hitchhiking on the border of a foreign country where I didn't speak the language.
Right. We're actually just out of curiosity, have you learned the language now?
Добрый день, як ти?
I guess so.
A little bit. I learned enough to function on the most basic of levels, but I need to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, when you have to interview Ukrainians, you would obviously prefer like you.
Oh yeah, I have to. I still have to rely on a translator. I can just do the most basic of like yes and no questions. It's like how I can engage.
Right. So I have to ask the $10,000 question here. Okay.
What's the $10,000 question?
Is this all in fact not just a ploy for you to find a based Eastern European trad wife?
Ah, God. After being in the country long enough, God, please no.
No, not your kind of women.
Look, the Ukrainian women are lovely. Okay, they're fantastic. Just like every woman is a special snowflake dropped upon earth by God, right?
I see.
But the thing is, when I was at checkpoints throughout the country, the men barely ever gave us a problem. Okay, they would look at us, and we had to go. There were so many checkpoints we had to go through in that country where they searched us and they like looked at our documents. But every time it was a woman soldier, it would be an hour-and-a-half ordeal, and I don't know why. But every single time it was a woman soldier, it'd be an hour-and-a-half ordeal. I have suspicions that this is my running theory. It's either A, sexism was correct and I was wrong all this time, and women really should not be in the workforce, which I think is I'm gonna say is the least likely scenario, or B, I think that in the recent obviously 8 to 9 months, a lot of women have joined the military because they're looking for everybody they can to fight the war and like staff like checkpoints inside the country. And so a lot of them, are new and are just trying to make sure they abide by every regulation so they don't fuck up. Where a lot of the men are like more used to this. Or I think a lot of the men
are
also don't have
generally more
expectations.
chill, and women are generally more thorough and more by the books than the men are.
Yes. Is this the Red Pill podcast?
That's what it is.
Yeah, I believe. When we put the gun in the hand of the woman, the gun's like bone structure is not for the feminine finger. The feminine finger is not there to pull a trigger. It's there to clean the
part. The best part about that is like
red pills. Why is it all back now? Why is it back?
Andrew Tate.
Yeah, Andrew.
It's like, women can't cheat. It's disgusting. But when men cheat, it's okay. It's not as bad. But when women cheat, it's disgusting.
I've never considered that. That's a great point.
The trans red pill intersection is probably something I haven't seen before on the internet. Where
True. We need to start the first trans red pill podcast. We're gonna broadcast this to a new audience.
where
Oh, but you see, this behavior is fembrained, all right?
fembrain, yeah.
And that behavior is AGP.
Oh God, bringing out the fucking trans deep lore, eh? Jesus.
It's also it is weird while you're in the in Ukraine though, because like communicating with people of like the other sex or like anybody that you might be attracted to, because I'm a bisexual guy, so I'm attracted to many people. There were many attractive soldiers in that country. The thing is about war zones, and this is true, and CNN will never tell you this, is everyone's horny, but nobody will ever engage ever.
Really?
Everyone.
Why?
Yeah. I think it's because like when you don't have a lot of good opportunities, you know, in a war zone to like do anything like that. So I feel like everybody's kind of like not have their itch scratched. And that's combined with the fact that war zones, you know, are very like high intensity environments, and the type of emotions that get out of you are like kind of all over the place sometimes. And so I think like when you're kind of like always kind of hyped up and like excitable, under those conditions, like that can also have an impact. I'm not saying that you get struck by artillery and then you're like, oh boy, but I'm saying that like I think that when you're running around all day and super excitable and you haven't done anything in like 8 to 9 months, like people, soldiers, and just people who haven't had that type of itch scratch can get very into it. I know a lot of aid workers, a lot of people in the country that were unbelievably horny but never did anything.
Right.
The possibility that you could possibly get struck by a stray bullet or a bomb at any point.
That is also a motivator. Yeah,
while
like
you're banging, just
like,
get blown up.
You're young. You can die at any moment. You need to live life to the fullest. That like there was a lot of people I think I engaged with kind of live their life that way. Like a lot of people when we went out to drink, I would like see people sometimes like engage in behavior that was just like clearly reckless, like drank, just like completely wasted, just get behind the wheel of a car and just drive off, right? Clearly drunk driving, but they just don't care because it feels like they could die like any moment almost for a lot of them.
Well, they do that here anyway. Fuck, that's just how it is.
True, but I think there's more of this feeling of like ever-present danger.
When
of, like,
war is right at the other side of the backyard.
When death is ever present, you want to live your life to the fullest.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, because you never know when your car's gonna get checked.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're in Ukraine and you're going around doing stuff. Did you actually just live out of the vehicle, or were you going to like probably not Airbnbs, but like were there places for you to stay?
So at the start, it was Airbnbs.
Okay.
But when we traveled across the country, we were just living in a car. We just sleep in the car, driving the car constantly, living in the car, smoking out of the car, everything out of the car. The car became our little nest egg. And it was this old Skoda car with no good suspension, not in a great condition. Radio barely works. No air conditioning.
You didn't stay in a fancy hotel like Coach Red Pill?
No, I did not. I did not.
Coach fucking Red Pill. Man, what happened to that? Last I heard, he got blown the fuck up. What happened to that guy?
He's still alive.
Is he?
So the rumor is that he
didn't
is
get
still
caught by Azov
in Ukraine.
Super soldiers.
Well,
the Azov Super Soldier Battalion.
He said he was caught by them. He said he was caught by them and interrogated. There was never any evidence posted, but people just kind of like believed him because like why would he lie? Is the idea. But like from what I hear, he's super anxious right now that people are out to get him. Like very kind of like people are out to get me, and he's like and I've listened to a lot of his commentary on Ukraine. It's just diluted nonsense. Like, oh, we've destroyed like half of their HIMARS, and like they haven't destroyed a single one. And it's just like he
claims of them destroying more HIMARS than we've actually sent them.
Yeah, exactly. I remember the first day of the war, the Russians said they disabled the entirety of the Ukrainian Air Force. And so that's why Russian civilians were so surprised when Ukrainian helicopters crossed the border into Belgorod and started firing upon like gas storage facilities, right? It was because they were told these bizarre lies by their government to like inspire confidence. And like Coach Red Pill's role is to just repeat these kind of bizarre lies. But I think he has a very high opinion of himself, and I think he's like super I don't know if the word's anxious, but he's super like he's always like looking behind his shoulder from everything I hear.
Yeah, I mean,
funnier thing about Coach Red Pill I've heard was when he talked about how like virile these Russian soldiers are and how big their dicks are.
What the fuck? Jesus.
Coach Red Pill is a strange guy. I have no clue why anybody respects anything he has to say on Ukraine. Everything he said about Ukraine so far has turned out to be false. Whether it be Poland's gonna invade and start taking territory, or it's about the HIMARS getting blown up. But people just like to believe people who will draw.
Well, he's there, man.
He's there. That's
so
the idea.
That's how it works.
Yeah, he's there, and the Ukrainian government hasn't shut him up yet. You know, the whole thing is, if we're not gonna have freedom of speech, right? Why can't we at least? Never mind. The stupid. I just don't understand. I don't understand why anybody respects anything he has to say, besides the fact that he can say he was there. So what? A lot of people were there, but the thing is, he's saying the exact opposite of basically what every other person who was there is saying. So why are people taking him at face value? Because they just want to be contrarian. They want to live in a fucking Tom Clancy novel where the Russians are actually right and our government's lying to you, and they just want to like ignore what the vast majority of sources on the ground are actually reporting back, which is the Russian military is failing to achieve any of their basic goals, and that they've engaged in just blatant acts of brutality.
But then retrieving from Kiev and then now Kherson, that's just a strategic retrieval.
It's a victorious, it's a glorious it's a glorious withdrawal is what I like to refer to it as.
Fuck. Okay, I just realized that we have half the viewers as normal. Is because Arch is doing the Archcast right now. We have identical audiences. He took half of our views. It's funny because usually I'll have 700 or he'll have 700, and now we both have 300 and change.
Look. Foreign affairs coverage, it comes with penalties. Okay. It comes with call me a retard, and we'll get this heated, and we'll get some viewers. Okay?
Well, here's the thing. I was gonna go ask Arch if he wanted to ask you any questions, because he is in Norway and he knows a lot about tank warfare. He's been doing his own kind of analysis, not necessarily from either side's ideological point of view, but just looking into how the tanks work and the artillery works, and the mechanics of war. You know what I mean? So he's been doing his own coverage from that point of view, and it would actually be interesting to see if he could ask you anything about it. But he's currently talking about Superman on the Archcast.
Of course, Superman.
Well, no, everyone in the chat's bye, time to leave, going to Arch.
By the way,
everyone's leaving.
What a cunt, by the way. Superman he's faster than a speeding bullet, hasn't saved a single Ukrainian child. Very disgusting.
Fucking hell.
That's true.
Probably a Russian shill.
No, I have I'm friends with Arch Warhammer. I'm friends with Mauler over at EFAP, and there's a lot of audience overlap between us. So, man, I gotta find another time to stream or something. Everyone's streaming. Everyone's streaming right now.
Let's have a next time we just stream, invite Dylan and Arch over. And
Dylan and Arch show?
Blast, yes.
We'll figure something else.
True. I'll forgive him even if he is Norwegian.
Do you know who Arch is? Arch Warhammer?
I've heard vaguely. He's a Warhammer 40k streamer or person, I assume. Yeah,
so he was basically the biggest Warhammer 40k YouTuber on YouTube. But because he was he was in the anti-SJW sphere in 2014, 2016, the company that owns Warhammer did not like him. So he actually got hit with a lawsuit because he was using Warhammer in the name. So he had to start a new channel, and he had to kind of also his channel was deboosted by YouTube. So he had to he started a new channel, and he's kind of he's building that one up now where he talks about things other than Warhammer. He's a nice guy though. Everyone calls him a fascist, but that's just the internet. So he's definitely a center.
What's his views on Hitler?
His views on Hitler.
Is he for or against?
I don't know. I have to really, ask him about that one, pin him down. Well, the main reason he's called a fascist is because I'll just tell the story because I don't fucking care. He had a Discord for his community, but the Discord was initially a fan-made Discord. It wasn't actually his official community Discord. He just turned it into it, but he didn't actually have ownership of it. Someone else did, and that someone else actually turned out to be a crypto Nazi, and he didn't know. And so there's all these Discord leaks of how Arch's own server isn't run by him, and one of his mods is subverting him and doing all this weird shit, and Arch can't do anything about it because he doesn't want his community to get banned. And eventually I'm just like, Arch, you just got to pull the band-aid on this. You got to just like start a new server, and you know, you lose a bunch of people. You'll get them back eventually, but you can't fucking let this go on. But like a lot of these Discord logs leaked of like how his mod was just ridiculous. But eventually he got that all cleared up. But like it's 5 years on, people still bring it up. It's like, all right, that's just Arch being dumb. It's not him being a Nazi.
So that's why you gotta tell the Nazis to get out, because like there's like a story, the allegory of like the bar owner is like if you don't tell a Nazi skinhead that's like in your bar to leave, it's sooner or later he's got to tell his friends.
It's gonna be a Nazi biker bar, yeah.
And then sooner or later your bar's a Nazi bar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be careful with the type of people you really do allow in your community. I'm trying to be more of, I'm drawing a line in the sand a lot more than I used to. I used to just be like, look, I gotta get anybody I can in my community. I just gotta get viewers. But I'm very much more like, honestly, my hard rule is just don't frustrate me too much is my rule. And so that's why I mostly ban conspiracy theorists. I mostly ban conspiracy theorists. It's honestly, I will actually keep like a conservative or a liberal or whatever the fuck you believe. I'll keep you usually as long as you're not a fucking psychopathic conspiracy theorist who can't provide evidence for their claims. If you're somebody who refuses to provide evidence for anything you claim, you're instantly going to get banned out of my community, which really works well because it mostly bans Nazis, fascists, and insane people.
See, for me, I'm like a pretty hardcore free speech extremist, and so I will actually keep around Nazis and fascists, but I will be like, listen, I know what you're all about. I know how political subversion works. There's still going to be a line that you can't cross. You know, we can have these debates about the Jewish question if you want to, but like there's certain things I'm not going to let you do. You know,
this is Zelensky talking to his military.
There are certain things you can't do. But yeah, like I think as a liberal, part of liberalism is tolerating ideas that you don't like. And I think if you're doing like a free speech, open inquiry thing, you have to read some literature you don't agree with. You have to like take the point of view of people that you don't agree with and kind of understand what it's like inside their own heads. You know, there are certain things you have to do that people generally like. Here's the thing: if you read Mein Kampf, even if you're not a Nazi, people will call you a Nazi anyway. So it's like, but I'm only trying to learn. No, you're a Nazi because you've touched the book. You know, you've laid a finger on it.
I think it's important to read. Like I watch a ton of Russian state TV. It's actually getting a little sickening. Like I'll just like let it like play in the background. And the reason I do this is I want to know what the Russians are saying to their own people. And it's honestly terrifying, the type of shit I'll hear sometimes. Like Ukrainianness is a disease of the mind, or we need to freeze them out. The only way to make them cave is to make them so cold that they just have to surrender. Just like blatantly like bragging about like war crimes. Like a lot of it is like really disgusting shit.
Yeah, shit like Ukraine isn't a real culture, or their language isn't real. The people are all Russians, and they will return to Russia and will eradicate this fucking with all these fucking languages.
Yeah, it's like really bizarre, just like almost like it almost sounds like those radio programs about like the Tutsi cockroaches. It's like getting like really close to that. But the problem is Westerners never see it because Westerners only ever listen to like Russia Today for Americans, or like the media that they produced for the United States. You ever see the Al Jazeera Middle East and compare it to Al Jazeera?
Memory TV, man, Memory TV.
Yeah, Memory TV is actually, I believe it's an Israeli company that takes the most extreme of the Middle East and like I think kind of tilts it in a way. But I think like Al Jazeera like Al Jazeera Arabic versus Al Jazeera Plus is like completely different experiences. Like one is like going to talk about
between one with the Al Jazeera with the rainbow logo and the other one. It's just fucking
where all the companies don't change their Middle Eastern profiles for Pride Month.
Yes. Exactly. And that's what it feels like looking at Russian media sometimes.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Some of the chat is currently raging. That's bullshit, Dev. You just threw out a bunch of people 2 months ago. We're never forgetting, Dev. You guys are the ones who crossed the line. Yes, I threw you out. Fuck you.
They deserve it. Get purged.
Get purged.
yes.
Get purged.
No, like I've had like a few
gulag.
There's been a few socialists who have come in and I've had to purge them too because they end up doing the same thing. You know, it wraps around and they're just like too extreme, and it's like, all right, that's enough of that. You can get the fuck out too.
I think actually the war in Ukraine is an amazing litmus test. I think for like if somebody's an insane person that's worth talking to or not. Unironically, I think it really shows like what values they prefer over mine. Because for me, it's like very easy for me to say I like Ukraine developing towards a democracy. I like seeing them institute these not discrimination protections that they've done recently for LGBT people. I like seeing their elections go through freely and fairly with no international monitors saying, wait a second, that looks like ballot stuffing. Like these are all positive developments in Ukrainian society, right? To see the Berkut abolished, which was like a brutal, corrupt, racketeering, torturing police force. Like seeing all this is like positive developments. And I think a lot of people just don't like those developments, but they don't want to say that out loud. They don't want to like openly admit like how authoritarian they are just by nature.
Like Russia's going to restore the Western values and not restore Western value, like restore good Christian values.
Yeah, that was like Paul Joseph Watson's view of it when he did his video. It was collapsing the liberal world order or something, and it was something along those lines.
Yeah, dude. Like, unironically, I have never been more confident in the liberal world order's ability to like deal with a crisis than I am now. Considering that Russia, what is supposed to be like the main main opponent of liberalism, can't take over Ukraine, yet it's supposed to take over all of NATO and defeat all of NATO, and it can't defeat 3% of NATO's military budget.
Yeah, there's no fucking way.
I remember seeing a bunch of insane like takes about how, if Russia goes to war with NATO, NATO's finished because the West is degenerate, and blame them army and rainbow flags and military ads, and look at all these, how manly our Russian soldiers are, and they're showing like propaganda about like these Russians
Dave
in like
Rubin
those
would do
super
this.
future armor and their super tanks.
Dave Rubin did this like a year ago. He did like this segment of like, wow, look at this dumb SJW cucked liberal ad talking about these lesbo moms. What the fuck? But then compare this to this brave Russian patriotic, brave Russian patriotic ad that's gonna send they're ready to fight a war. They've got the strong, amazing military culture. What a lot of people didn't understand is that the Russian military is unbelievably corrupt. And I think a lot of people think like, oh, American soldiers are motivated by greed, but Russian soldiers are motivated by love of country. And it's like this like cartoonish view of like the Russian people, where a lot of those people are in the military because they have no other career path and they're insanely poor, or they are selling winter uniforms and guns out of the back of their fucking trucks and ammo depots, and they weren't really prepared for an invasion.
Or replacing their tank armor with fucking cardboard.
Oh fuck exactly. Yeah! Arch showed us that we did that Ukraine stream a month ago with Arch, and he was showing us like the inner workings of their tanks, and they have fucking cardboard where the armor should be. It's so ridiculous, man.
What I want, look, if the they-them army was going to get the blame if Ukraine was to fall so quickly, why doesn't the they-them army get the credit when Russia fails? Like, I believe the reason Ukraine won and the West won is because we're the they-them army, because we're just
we embrace diversity, and diversity is our strength.
Exactly. Diversity is our strength was literal when Joe Biden said it. It actually makes our military 10% stronger than every other military on the planet. The more BLM a chance the stronger you are in a boxing match. And the
more pronouns a soldier has, the more powerful they are.
True. The pronoun is actually your new rank in the United States military.
Oh, is that how it is?
Yeah. It's the highest role you can have.
Oh god, this guy's still going off in the chat. He's like, I just wish you were honest about you saying that you're free speech, because if someone's annoying you, you'll just ban them like shit lib celebrities do. Listen, there are many people in my Discord who annoy me, okay? Yeah. I don't ban them. All right, I'll ban annoying people. Yeah, I will ban you if you annoy me too much. Because I'm not a shit lib. Dylan is a shit lib. I'm not.
I am a shit lib.
I will not ban people who annoy me. I will not ban people who disagree with me. I got emailed by Discord, and they said, listen, there are people who are organizing raids against other servers in like the bowels of your server. You need to fucking stop this, or we're going to delete your community. And I was like, I guess I got to go down there and stop this then. So I went down to all. I went down to like the channels that I very rarely visit, and I'm like, all right, you guys gotta chill the fuck out. And then they all just told me to fuck off, so I banned them. And I'm like, listen, all right, I like free speech, but you're not going to get my server deleted, okay? There's a line here, and the line is I'd like to remain on the internet. Okay.
I've been told by the people who really don't like me that I have a very toxic community. I don't believe that's the case. My community has a lot of really like older people, like people in their 40s and 50s, like a lot of older people who are more kind of like less engaging with like online internet culture, especially because of my Ukraine coverage.
Mhm.
I think my community is generally pretty chill. But if you're like pro Russia and like they see you, there it's literally just kill yourself.
Jesus.
Here's your address. Like they hate you.
Your IP address.
Yeah, they despise you. They turn it out of they like turn from like like somebody like doing like a civil rights protest to like Hayatir al-Sham like in an instant if you like decide that you're like you're pro Russia in any way, or they smell it. Which isn't that crazy because I have a ton of Ukrainians in my community now, a ton of them, and so like for them it's very much like you want me annihilated, fuck you.
Go back to the other side of the river.
So yeah, let me see if I can steel man the opposition a bit, at least the reasonable
Okay.
opposition, because I'm not really like I am a lukewarm supporter of Ukraine. I think it's because I'm so far away from it and it's not really my wheelhouse. But I do understand like the general liberal idea of okay, we should probably support certain countries because they have like certain values that are more aligned with ours. Like okay, but like to steel man it, like a lot of people on the right say that Ukraine's elections, like Ukraine's elections, its institutions, they were still pretty corrupt. They're still kind of Russia-esque in their corruption. So this idea that it's just blanket good versus evil. This is a good nation that is being invaded by a bad one, and they're liberal and they're open and they're tolerant. Not necessarily. Ukraine I think was moving towards that position, but it wasn't there. So I think a lot of right-wing people see this as like why are we getting involved in this fight where we have two nations that are both pretty corrupt, and we're gonna chastise one of them for being corrupt, and the other one we're not gonna chastise. Like, well, that seems kind of hypocritical.
I would say like some systems are more like tend to have more corruption, but any system can have corruption, especially when a system is young and they're transitioning off of the Soviet style economy and the Soviet style system, which is what Ukrainians are trying to transition off of. And I think they've made tremendous strides in that goal. I think after the Euromaidan revolution, getting rid of the Berkut, which participated in racketeering, which participated in torture, sexual assault, and a lot of terrible behavior, them being completely abolished. The Russians, though, when they annexed Crimea, of course, kept all the Berkut policemen because they don't care. I think they are making strides forward. I think the last election is the most clear example of that, where there was no like disputed election. Poroshenko didn't say, "Oh, this was rigged." All the international monitors seemed to say that the results seemed to be fair and free, and that the exit polling matched what the actual results were. Like that's a good development to see, like elections being carried out in Ukraine with very little complaints about whether or not the results were really what the results were. And these developments are very positive in Ukrainian society. The civil society is becoming more active. There's a real culture here of like, we are here to defend democracy. This is a war to defend democracy. We're not a perfect democracy, but we're a developing democracy. When the French supported us, they didn't support us under this idea that the United States is a perfect democracy, or they're like the perfect system, or like they don't have corruption or they don't have problems. Every society, especially societies that are just starting to experiment with democracy, which is a relatively young system when you're talking about it in its modern kind of representative democracy form that we have in the West. I think we need to understand that this is still a new developing system, but it's fragile, and I think its fragility needs to be protected. That's why it needs to be protected, because if the Russians did take Kiev and they did take over the country, they could erase what hundreds to thousands of people died to protect. Now tens of thousands of people. In Euromaidan, a lot of people were beaten to death by police or just shot to death because they were trying to struggle for this better ideal. A lot of these soldiers view themselves as defenders of that revolution, the Euromaidan revolution, which saw Yanukovych flee the country after murdering protesters and trying to outlaw protesting.
Rip Bozo.
Rip Bozo. Yeah, see, I generally agree with you. Like, there's one state is corrupt and trying to reform, and one state is corrupt and not. So, I mean, this seems like there's a clear moral winner for me,
one seems to be a functioning democracy. You could at least say it's functioning. It doesn't like it's a rusty AK, but it still works. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know.
It's pretty funny watching like far right people, or when they were on Twitter they were saying, oh, there was one video where they were interviewing some, I think, transgender people, and they say, oh, what do you think about Ukraine? Do you support it? And most of them said, yeah. And then they would then ask, oh, but did you know that in Ukraine gay marriage is illegal?
Yeah,
they'll get there. They'll get there.
Yeah, they are illegal.
Alex Stein actually confronted me with that after one of my panels. He was like, "Why are you supporting Ukraine when you're a homo and they don't want you to let you get married?" And I had to sit there and explain to you, like, hey, if I was like a Polish queer person, the Polish government during the 1930s was not exactly favorable towards queer people.
Yeah,
but
you're not gonna want the fucking Nazis.
Yeah, there's like a worse force that's actively invading. I've met queer Ukrainians. I've discussed them with this in detail, and for them, they've seen progress in recent years, not only when it comes to polling, but when it comes to non-discrimination protection that were implemented in 2015. And now we see Zelensky at least entertaining the idea of civic partnerships, which isn't perfect. But when you understand that it's Ukraine between Poland and Russia and Belarus, like and Moldova, like we're understanding like where Ukraine is and where its cultures around homosexuality was just 30 years ago, right? That these are tremendous strides that don't just piss off, Kadyrov and Putin and his boys who constantly talk about in their propaganda how you need to go to Ukraine and fight to stop the queers and the homos from invading Russia, which is always talked about in Russian state media. I've seen Chechen commanders give pep talks to their soldiers, talking about the shaitan, which means devil, the shaitans in Ukraine, which want to press homosexuality on your children. Like, Ukraine is for the progress that they have made, even if it isn't tremendous, they've paid a tremendous, I would say, propaganda price for it when it comes from how the Russians are portraying them. And so I would say that, like, as a queer person, like, Ukrainian society is progressing when it comes to these issues. Is it perfect? No, but neither is most societies when it comes to this issue.
Yeah, and how much better are they going to be under Russia? For example,
it's not gonna be,
Russian occupation is not going to be a good time to be a they them. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they recently just expanded their quote unquote gay propaganda law from like against to teaching it to children to just in general. So it's like you're not even basically allowed to be public and gay or anything.
They're trying to expand it so you can't even.
Sexual.
The Russians are actually trying to expand it. There's a proposal in the Russian Duma that's talking about actually expanding gay propaganda, so you can't express it to adults either. Meaning, this is basically make protesting as a homosexual illegal.
Yeah, that's a bit much for me.
Like, it's funny how
just a tiny
on
bit.
one hand, it's like Ukraine is is embracing global homo and they're gonna import their degeneracy onto the good, wholesome Russian people, and on the other hand, with the same breath, they'll say, "Oh, they're all Nazis. Every last one of them. They're all Nazi, gay, homo, Western."
The homo Nazis.
You know how weird it is to see all the and I've experienced this so many times, to see all the far right people or right wing people that would have screeched at me even attempting to like breathe the word, say fascism or say Nazi, and if any point at all about anybody that I politically disagree with that's near their side of the aisle, how quickly they've all turned to call me a Nazi for supporting Ukraine. How quickly all these people who whined about it for the last 4 to 6 years have turned around to say like, oh, you support Ukraine, you support Nazis.
I can tell you exactly why. I can tell you exactly why. Is because the right learned that complaining about such obvious, stupid double standards doesn't actually get them anywhere. So they just started doing the same thing. They're realizing, oh, this is the game we have to play to win now, so we're going to play it. So now they are calling people Nazis and fascists, and now they're going to start basically pushing their own version of a one-sided policy into like their elected officials and stuff. So basically, they learned that the left was okay for a very long time being bigoted in their own way, and if you have to be bigoted to win, the right has no problem with being bigoted. So I think that's why you see like it. So here we are.
It's so frustrating though, because
it makes them sound really stupid.
I try
like inherently
very hard.
Contradictory.
I try very hard to be careful with my words, right? I try very hard to not like call somebody definitely because of like experiences I've had online about being careful with your words and like how you need to like think about the things before you say them or make accusations and stuff like that. And so I try, and it's like I just think about the amount of effort and time I've put into like considering the words I use, and just seeing how quickly somebody will call me a fascist, or all my Ukrainian friends fascist, or call them all Nazis, really just for being Ukrainian, which is really wild to just like, you are Ukrainian, you are this. And to hear the same people who are like, well, if you were black, that doesn't mean you have to be liberal. You don't have to be a Democrat, or you have to have these ideologies, etc. Just seeing the same people complain about it for so long, just completely 180ing on it, is unbelievably frustrating. And people can say like, well, they learned that this is what you have to play to win. I don't think it's what you have to play to win. I think it's just like, you can say, well, they started it, but I mean, it's still childish, like pathetic behavior. In my opinion.
Sure, but
like,
at the same time,
me first.
Well, hold on, because the issue is I'm old enough to remember what the internet was like, 10 years ago or 8 years ago, 5 years ago. You had situations where right-leaning people were getting banned off of social media, banned off of YouTube, banned off of all these places, and they were saying, "You're being hypocritical, leftists," and they would be like, "We don't care." So it does seem like a Pandora's box was opened when the left started canceling people, back in that era. And they did start canceling people. The right hasn't held enough cultural power to cancel people in 30 years. The left started doing this. And now that the pendulum is swinging back around, I think you're going to see, this is what the whole groomer thing is about, right? The right found a label that they could slap onto anything that they want destroyed. And they're going to use it the way that leftists used fascist from 2015 onward. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Well, the thing
it's
is,
just a strategy. It's just a strategy.
When you talk about the words like groomer, though, this is not like new territory, right? This is something that I think like LGBT people have been like labeled for a very long time. I don't know if you saw. Did you see those like old like police commercials? Like,
oh yeah,
where they
different
would, like,
words, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
it's all the same like general like vibes and ideas about it. And I think the thing that are incredibly frustrating to me is that obviously you can find like bad examples in any community or in any space, and the same thing is true for LGBT people.
Yeah,
but to see this
Mario Miele,
man. But to see this label, which is basically you're just calling your opposition like a pedophile, right? When you say things like groomer, that's what you're trying to communicate. To see that just be like thrown like almost like snowballs just thrown so freely, is personally concerning to me. It really is.
Devalues the word.
Really don't. It devalues the word also, which is bothering to me, because if I hear one of my friends get accused of being a groomer, like, do you remember the Call Me Carson situation? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Call Me Carson is a YouTuber who was, I believe, and this is the facts that I remember. Now, this is just one example, but there's a million other examples you can point to. He was like 19 and he was with like a 17-year-old, right? And people called it grooming. That's not grooming. He's 19, she's 17.
Did they go to like the same high school and they knew each other before? Like,
not even that, but it's still not grooming when you're talking about that little of an age difference. It's just these words. It's not only just politically, but just generally, these words are devalued. The same thing with Nazi, same thing with fascist, same thing with genocide, or like any of these words.
Though they're calling people, they're calling like 26-year-olds dating 23-year-olds grooming.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. But like the age gap is too big, and so now it's grooming, even though they're both of age, and it's like, Jesus Christ, guys!
It's fucking ridiculous.
I mean, like, it seems to be the case that like the old
actual pedophilia, you normalize it when you fucking try to apply it to shit that are basically not even involving children.
Yeah,
you just. Everybody's a pedophile now. It's just when
everyone's a pedophile.
When everyone is a pedophile,
nobody is. Nobody is.
DragonFat in the chat says, "You support Russia and Ukraine. I support Wagner and Azov. We are not the same."
True.
Only support the Nazis of each faction. Okay, that's how you properly do it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I was talking to Not So Erudite recently, if you know who she is. And,
I'm familiar with her. Yep, we're friends.
She's very smart. Here's the thing. We've been friends for like 6 months, just not publicly, because we never found a time to do anything together. But I finally had a chance to talk to her for like 4 hours about stuff. And I described what I don't have the psych education she does. I took intro to psych and abnormal psych in university, but I didn't get a psych degree. So she's more educated on a lot of this stuff. So I described to her what I colloquially call the spotlighting effect. And the spotlighting effect, I went into detail on it when I did my Libs of TikTok video, because the issue with Libs of TikTok is that they do show sometimes actual bad behaviors done by actual queer teachers. But if all you do is consume Libs of TikTok content, you might see 10 or 15 of these bad queer teachers and think that's all of them. And it's like, Jesus Christ, they're everywhere. It's like, well, no, that's only 10 or 15 of them. And those 10 or 15 probably should not be doing what they're doing, but that's not everyone. And so there seems to be some sort of bias where people will build a narrative in their heads based on the media they consume and then think that that's reality when it's actually not.
Absolutely. It just depends on like what information you kind of like are able to cherry pick and curate for yourself online. And a lot of this, I think, is the fault of social media companies who their main goal is to keep you on Twitter, is to keep you on Facebook.
Yeah.
And whatever is going to keep you interacting is what they're going to serve you, even if it's not good for you and it's not giving you like, it's not good information hygiene. So if for you, what gets you excitable is seeing like Ukrainians committing war crimes, then Twitter will, unironically, same with Facebook, will curate your content to make it sure that it's just content that's critical of the Ukrainian army. And so you're not going to see the type of war crimes that the Russian army engages in, but you're going to constantly see the war crimes the Ukrainian army engages in, even though they are much on a smaller scale than the war crimes that the Russians have engaged in as a percentage. But if
That goes for anything when people surround themselves in an echo chamber with the news that only they agree with. It's like,
absolutely, yeah,
their whole worldview is going to be completely warped. It's like, that goes for anybody, really. It's like the left or the right. If you surround yourself with only like yes men, this is like, and then you go out into the world like there's so many Republicans expecting like a massive red tsunami in America this year. And they were just like, what the fuck? Why didn't this happen?
Well, the reason it didn't happen, I think, is because of Roe v. Wade. If they didn't repeal that 6 months earlier, I think you would have seen a bigger red wave.
I just finished a piece, actually. I got to record it tonight if I can, on why the Republicans' red wave didn't manifest. I had 5 reasons that I collected.
You had 5 reasons?
Yes. The first reason.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Sargon and I have been talking about it, and we it's half a joke. And a bunch of them describing what's going on, and the meme that is currently being circulated is the horocracy, which is the idea that, because you do see in the polling that single unmarried women disproportionately came out for Democrats in ways they hadn't before. And I'm just thinking it's got to be Roe v. Wade. That's got to be like the big thing driving it.
Amen. That's my base. Single unmarried women. But the thing is, I think it was 5 reasons. I think the first thing was Roe v. Wade. I think a lot of people, because of inflation, they thought like Roe v. Wade wouldn't be as big of an issue as it was. But as somebody who's in Maryland, who's around Democrats, who's around Democratic communities, it was a big issue from when it was overturned to the day that the midterm happened. And I think a lot of people undersold how big of a motivator that was going to be for Democrats. I think another thing that was a big motivator for Democrats and a big thing that helped them was Gen Z turnout. Gen Z turnout was above what it historically is for midterms. It was about 27%. And in the battleground states, we're talking Pennsylvania, we're talking Georgia, we're talking 31%, which is historically very high. We're actually talking about 2018 blue wave numbers.
That's probably also Roe v. Wade related, though. Because I
think it's Roe v. Wade related. I think it's student debt relief related. I think it's a few reasons. But I also think it's because there's been investments made since 2018 and engaging with young voters like year round. And I think there needs to be more investment for Democrats in engaging young voters year round, not just around election day, for them to keep picking up these W's with young people. Because if the Democrats could get young people to turn out at like 40%, 45%, like they would be dominating these midterm elections like nothing else.
That also doesn't help that the Republicans are, one of the talking points is raising the voting age now.
Is this not?
Is it?
I did see a little bit of it. I saw a little bit of it after the election because they realized how little young voters came out for them, and so the solution for some of them is just, we'll just make it so they can't vote, which is just the most like obvious of like, fuck. Well, if I can't win the game,
changing your policies, it's fucking. Let's make it so let's disenfranchise them.
To be fair, everyone says if we can't win the game, let's change the rules, right? Because the rightoids did it with January 6th. That was the rightoids doing that. However, leftoids, as soon as they lost Roe v. Wade, they were screaming about how the Supreme Court had to be overthrown and it was a corrupt institution. And
we have to pack the courts.
We have to pack the courts. Everyone says change the rules when they lose, and it's kind of frustrating, to be honest.
Well,
yeah,
the difference is that we're right and they're wrong, of course.
I do not think so this time. No, I don't think packing the court is the thing to fucking do.
Oh no,
I'm not
in favor of packing.
He's not being serious.
I'm not being serious.
Oh, okay, Jesus.
I think federal codification is the path forward.
What is that?
Federal codification. That means passing a law on the federal level to codify the protections that Roe v. Wade provided.
Yeah, but
would that hold up in court?
It's what conservatives said that the left should have done. And honestly, it would
be fair, they probably should have done that. Yeah,
it would have. We had very brief opportunities to, but it just wasn't a priority for Democrats, and so now it's come back to bite us in the ass. It's the same reason why you're seeing everybody trying to get through the gay marriage stuff right now. It's because there's a slight amount of fear, even though I think it probably isn't going to happen, that gay marriage could be overturned. The decision that got that.
Overturn Odenville.
I recall reading Alito's.
Low.
Yeah, I was reading Alito's thing, and he said that it's a different kind of argument, which is why Roe v. Wade had to be overturned. But the other ones, it wouldn't apply to that. You guys should do it like we do it here, man.
It's possible, but it's unlikely.
Listen, we got abortion and gay marriage under a conservative here, okay? And basically, the conservatives had a referendum and said, listen, do you guys actually want to change any of this stuff? And people said no. And then they're like, okay, and they dropped it. And no one cares anymore. And that was like 15 years ago.
Well, that's what people thought that conservatives had done with gay marriage. But then I saw right immediately when this gay marriage legislation was going through the Senate, I saw Ben Shapiro, I saw Matt Walsh, I saw all these like big conservative commentators come out, even though they've been dormant on this issue for the last 7 years, but they still held the same beliefs. They still said the same things. People thought they had dropped it, but they hadn't really dropped it. And I mean, Ben Shapiro was even saying that any Republican that votes in favor of this legislation, which doesn't even codify gay marriage, it makes it so that, let's say, a state made gay marriage illegal. Let's say gay marriage went away from illegal protection, and some states started to make it illegal. Basically, what this legislation would do is that if somebody's married in California and they move to Tennessee, Tennessee has to respect that marriage, which is very moderate, in my opinion. A very moderate approach to the gay marriage ruling, in my opinion. And Ben Shapiro said that if, we need to take down the names of everybody who voted in favor of this as a conservative in the Senate. If you should not be a Republican voting for this legislation.
I have a feeling.
It just shows me how disconnected that I think people like Ben Shapiro and definitely the religious zealots types are from
even a lot of conservatives and Republicans, they just accept it as it's not that big of a deal anymore.
Well, I think a lot of these
smart conservatives are more concerned about inflation and
that's
and
true.
the rising costs and difficulty with everything, the gas prices.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they should be focusing on. But no, they got to focus on the dumb ones. They got to focus on the culture issues that
I think what it is, though,
nobody cares about anymore.
I'm not sure if it's fully culture issues. I think it's part of it. I think a lot of the conservatives who do think like this, they're doing a states' rights stance where they're like, listen, we just want each individual state government to choose whether or not they want abortion and gay marriage and these social issues to happen in their communities, right? I think that's their view of it. So, for example,
I don't agree with you.
You don't think so? Why?
No, I don't, because I listened to Ben Shapiro and I listened to Matt Walsh, and the arguments they make isn't a states' rights argument. The argument is that marriage is an institution that's meant to see the procreation of children. It's meant to see children be born, and men and another man cannot give birth to a child. Therefore, they're not serving the purpose of marriage. Therefore, we should not redefine what marriage is into this fake new institution that means nothing. We'll degrade marriage further, which already the degradation of marriage has damaged the United States through the increase in divorce rates and fatherless homes. Therefore, we need to stop gay people from being married. That's the argument I see from Ben Shapiro. That's the argument Matt Walsh repeated on Joe Rogan's podcast. That seems to be the argument I'm hearing more and more. And it's an old argument that has been, I think, dealt with a million times 7 years ago. But I think it's been 7 years, and so a lot of people forgot that these were the arguments being made, and so some people have forgotten the counters. But it's for me, it's very simple. There are a lot of people who can't procreate. There are a lot of people who are infertile or have medical reasons or just choose not to. Does that mean
they shouldn't marry either? Fuck them.
Yeah. Once a woman goes through menopause, they have to get a divorce. That's just how it works.
They're no longer serving the purpose of marriage.
Well, so
you're no longer married anymore.
Here's the thing, Are you saying then that these people would advocate, for example, if they held enough power to do so, they would actually advocate for the Fed imposing a no gay marriage rule on California, where California clearly would vote for one?
Do you think they would be in favor of it? I think the politicians in office possibly would. I don't know if the commentators would defend it. I don't know if Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder would defend it. I think when we're talking about like Paul Gosar and we're talking about
I think Matt Walsh would definitely defend it.
I think it could get 30 votes
might.
in the Senate. I'm thinking it could get 30 votes in the Senate.
Right. So the thing is, I think there are definitely some people who are on the right who are just like, listen.
Oh wait, Matt Walsh would, by the way.
Yeah,
Matt Walsh
he would,
100% would. It's not even a question for him.
I think there are some people on the right who legitimately view it as a states thing, right? Like, listen, California can vote yes for gay marriage, and Texas can vote no, and then we'll just live peaceably in that. I think some people on the right actually view it that way, for sure. They want like decentralized power, you know?
I think sometimes it's just overemphasized though, because I can hear people making an argument for that, and then I'll hear like the next words will be also when it comes to the gay marriage, and then they'll start talking about like, population death, and I'm like, okay, it feels like they're not. This isn't really an issue about like states' rights to you. I feel like this is more of an issue of you just don't want gay people to get married, especially when I'm listening to like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro, because the main arguments they're making isn't even states' rights. It's gay people should not be able to get married.
Right. And I think I know what you mean. Yeah. Actually, I had like a Twitter thread on this because I was giving my actual take on this, because I was thinking like, I'm not sure. Like, first of all, just to be clear, we're having a discussion. I am ultimately pro-gay marriage, but to have the discussion, I'm not sure how much
you can call me the F slur as much as you want. I don't care.
Well, it's okay. I'm also bi. It's fine. We're all LGBT here, okay? But
Fantastic.
I'm actually not sure how much gay marriage actually helped the situation. And I kind of here. Let me see if I can pull this up so that everyone can see it. Come on, Twitter, work for once. Give me a second here.
Not help the situation in what way? Like in what reference?
I will have it for you. Okay. So, this is Gallup polls. I'll put it in the chat and I'll put it on screen for you guys to see. Okay. Okay. Check out this. These are Gallup poll regarding straight adults and LGBT adults' marital status. Okay. So 47% of U.S. adults who are straight, they're married to an opposite sex spouse. However, if you go down to single, never married, like more than double of the LGBT adults have been married. This is in 2020. So to me, what this looks like to me is that even though 9.6% did in fact get gay married, most gay people don't seem to want gay marriage. And I'm old enough to remember the debate on gay marriage back when it was like going through both in Canada and the United States. And the debate on the pro-gay marriage side was basically that gay marriage is this pro-social stabilizing institution, and if we can bring gay people into it, it is better for them and better for society that they are in monogamous relationships and they have their careers and they have their houses and they adopt some kids and they have a family and they become a part of the community, rather than, you know, them going to these orgies where they're drinking everyone's piss and they're spreading monkeypox around, right? Like what is the better future for a young gay man? Clearly, it's the more stable one.
Monkeypox.
So,
okay.
But still though, like, and if we open the doors for marriage, more of them will take the more stable route and become a part of society. And it's like, okay, fair enough. But then you've had gay marriage for a while, and you look at the polling, and most of them actually aren't taking that route. So then you have to ask, you have to ask the question, like, the question is like, well, why, like at some point, one, you have to ask why they're not. And then two, you have to say, well, can we make any sort of moral prescriptions here where it's like, shouldn't you be doing this? Like, shouldn't you be having a more stable life? Because we say the exact same thing to straight people. Like, find yourself a girlfriend and settle down. Don't be promiscuous, because it's bad for you. It's bad for society. Like, at some point, you have to ask why gay people aren't actually doing what they all said they would do when they were advocating for gay marriage.
I think there's a few explanators here, at least that I can think of at the top of my head. I think the first one, of course, gay marriage has only been law of the land for 7 years, right? And so
it's 15 here. Yeah, it's a little bit different. It's 15 here. Yeah.
So it's gonna, and actually here was only 5. This is 2020, so this is 5 years after the gay marriage ruling, right?
Mhm.
And about 10% of LGBT people are married, which I think 1 in 10 after going probably from a much lower number is decent improvement, but obviously it could be faster. I think also it's cultural. I think a lot of gay people, like for like hundreds of years, like forever, they hadn't had this ability to do this. And for a lot of them, they kind of got used to the idea of like not getting married. For a lot of them, that marriage wasn't that important for them. They had to learn to live without marriage, learn
Right.
without the option of marriage. And now that this option's been put on the table, a lot of them are like, now that we have this, is this really what we even want? Like what will this change about our relationship? I mean, we were planned to live with each other and die with each other without marriage anyway. And so a lot of them just don't want it from like that cultural type of influence. They never needed it when they grew up. So why do they need it now? I think a lot of it is probably also still that there is still holdovers of homophobia. And there are a lot of people who are still afraid to go through with these types of ceremonies or even to like be that open about who they are due to like the homophobia in their own community. I do think that's a contributor, but I think a lot of it is cultural. I think it's the second one, and that's going to take, I don't know how long it's going to take for that to be undone, because I don't think there's anything inherent about like straight people that makes them more marriage worthy than gay people. I don't think there's anything like genetic there about that.
I'm not sure. I don't think I agree with you. I think those are 3 decent, plausible explanations, but I do think there's a fourth one, and I think the fourth one is the dominant one. There's this view among like radical queer liberation theorists, if you read any of those guys, that like being extreme with your sexuality is it's a core component of being gay. You know, like if you are not guzzling piss on the Pride float naked in front of children during Pride Month, then you're not actually a gay person. You know, stuff like that, right? There's what was her fucking
I
name?
feel like that's more prominent amongst the older generations of gays, though.
Maybe
Because like back then, like they had to do everything in secret. Is why the gays being arrested in parks and shit was very common back in the 60s and to the 80s, even up to the 90s. The gay bathhouse, the orgies and shit. And a lot of those older generations of gays, they're still very much alive and kicking. A lot of them probably have AIDS and whatever. Because
Jesus,
that was,
yeah.
No, it's true though, but it's there's that element where it's like, oh, it's against societal norms, it's taboo, and that's the way it's relegated, and that's the way it should be. And I think a lot of them are still stuck on a mindset because that's just what they've had for.
I think that's part of it. Yeah,
decades.
I actually agree with you. So, I think some young people are still part of that scenario though. So I'll just pull this up again, right?
Like,
hold on.
Like
let me show this. Okay. Yeah. So there's this tweet. Yeah, this is Anna Valens. Queer public sex is at the heart of a culture war between radical queers versus reformists. All right. So this is somebody who is in the radical queer theory space and has read some of these political theorists. And there's this view. If you go like really deep into LGBT political theory, there is this view.
I'm sorry, I just clicked this person's fucking profile, and the last tweet they tweeted is a fucking porn of Lightning McQueen.
She's insane. No. Do you know who Anna Valens is?
No, I don't know.
She's fucking insane. She is a what are they? They're called radical queer separationists, and they're like black separatists but for LGBT people. All right. And there is a component of like very far left political literature on these people that I've done some reading on. Do you
really think this is the dominant reason why queer people aren't getting married? I think this is a stretch. Like I don't know really many queer people in my life that are like, I would get married, but my dedication to queer public sex and like anal fisting is so extreme that I actually can't fit the ring on my finger anymore because I don't want to lose it in some guy's asshole. It's like not something I hear from a lot of queer people.
Well, and I think that's because you're 21. So when Lilith was saying that older gay people had more of this, I think that's actually true. If you talk to like a 40-year-old gay person or something, there was so much more promiscuity back then, and that I think that there might be like a queer subculture that is extremely anti-marriage, just as like a, you know, we don't want to be assimilationists. sort of attitude. You know what I mean? And I think as like if we were to come back to this conversation in 20 or 30 years, I think a lot of that attitude will have aged out of the population. But I do think right now a lot of the older gay people just will not get gay married for this reason.
We also need to consider the fact that this is also this is also all taking place within a general downward trend of people getting married in the first place.
Yes, that's
and so that means gay people got the right to marry while there was a general downward trend of people ever getting married, period. At the same time, divorce rates are at an all-time high, and queer people would be asking themselves, we've never had the right to do with this, now we do. I kind of already accepted the fact I wasn't going to get married. Like, I already was at peace with it. Should I even get married? Like, what's the point? Like, I just, like, I love this person. I was going to live with them. And so I think all these factors kind of came together to create this low rate. But it has increased, and it does continue to increase still. But
that's so good,
remember, we're the only, I think also the only group in the United States that probably seen its marriage rate increase in relation to other groups as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the thing.
In
like,
a couple decades, it's going to even out a lot more.
I actually think so, too. Yeah. I think as like the old, like, 1960s era radicals
want to get married.
The 1960s and 70s era radicals like kind of age out of the queer movement. I think you'll probably see a rise in marriage rates as well. Like I said, I'm ultimately pro gay marriage, just that I'm not gonna like not talk about a problem that I see. You know what I mean?
I think I don't know if it's even radical like political ideology that's causing people to not get married amongst older people either. I think it's just like they had accepted the fact in their lives that this is not something that's available to them. They had like accepted that this is not something that's for them. This is for other people. It's probably never going to happen. And now that it's here, like, why should they? I mean,
I don't know, Dylan.
I think motivation.
I think part of it is definitely politics, because you watched my 3 forms of fascism video where I touched on Mario Miele.
That, and I watched your groomer video as well, actually.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I touched on the Mario Miele, the Italian communist who said that gay men had to fuck children to make them anti-fascists. So you can go down some strange rabbit holes.
That's not prominent though.
You can go down some strange rabbit holes when it comes to political theory. There's some weird shit out there.
The majority of people generally are just pretty like lay, kind of like non-political people anyway.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too.
Most people are like that generally. Like, they're not like, and if they are political, and this is for most people, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm for Biden. Oh yeah, I'm for Trump. It's not, yeah, I'm for the 1920 anarchist Arthur who wrote on the steppes of fucking Mongolia that in order to be truly gay, you must have a threesome upon a black stallion or something, right? Like, that's not something that like most queer people even know about existing, much less that they actually studied, researched it, and like figured it out. And so I think people a lot of times like, I do think it has some impact, like this idea of like marriage as an institution to tame queer culture, but I think it's not the biggest motivators whatsoever.
I think the main, so here I know like a lot of rightoids online, they will say they'll bring up the specter of critical race theory and not actually know anything about it, right? Like, because they're fucking stupid, right? But so you can be me as a young baby, all right? In 2007, I'm gonna pull up my book. I have my old textbook by Lois Tyson, Critical Theory Today, a User-Friendly Guide, 2nd edition, published in 2007. I was learning about critical theory like 10 years before a conservative knew even what it was. And in reading some of this political theory in this book, I remember very strongly that there was a section on how, the straight desire to bring queer people into straight institutions like marriage will ultimately defang the queer movement. And there's definitely a strain of this in political thought that I think does translate down to some communities. But I think, honestly, like, that's just radical, insane bullshit.
Can I ask you a question? How much do you think Marcus Garvey's teachings affects the fact that black people tend to group around other black people and white people tend to group around other white people in the United States? I don't think Marcus Garvey has that much to do with it. I think it has to do with a lot of more socioeconomic factors and just like history and like I think some of it's lingering racism. I think a lot of it has to do with economics. I think a lot of it has to just do with geography and where people settled after Reconstruction. But I think the idea that Marcus Garvey or some like radical like black separationist or like what are they called, the Black Israelites, any of these people are like a primary motivator. Like, I think it would maybe be like 1%. And I would think when it comes to queer people, it'd be something similar to that.
Yeah, it's probably I think
It's like how much influence does David Duke have on the average white person?
Not a lot.
Not much.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I think. Okay, I'm trying to word this properly. It's something like when a movement is on the extreme fringes of society, you will only have radicals in it, and so the radicals have the sway. And I think that's like what pre-Stonewall gays were. They were all like pretty radical. But I think after that, as things become more mainstream and more accepted, the radicalism starts to lose its edge and starts to lose its influence. You know what I mean? So I do think I still hold to the idea that some of the older gay people probably do think like this, but they're going to age out of the population, I think. And then I think we will see a sharp rise in gay marriages.
I think it's hard to say exactly like when we're going to see a sharp rise. I think we're seeing a rise year after year. I think it's going to be a slow process. I don't think there's going to be any like
fair enough.
Gradual progress.
Fair enough.
And the thing is, we also
probably
got to
shouldn't have
understand
said sharp rise. I probably shouldn't have said sharp rise.
that gays are getting married at a time where there's a general downward trend. So they're literally fighting against the current and trying to catch up to any marriage rate. And so like I think like these intersections of just general disinterest in getting married, high divorce rates, and still being lingering homophobia does affect their want to get married. And I do think like they could have some impact, but I think it's like so minimal that that's almost like why do you even mention it? Like I just like it's just such a minimal impact, I think. Like I don't see these people in my daily life.
I guess we just disagree because I think it's an age thing. I think unless you hang out with like 40 or 50-year-old gay people, you won't see them, you know?
If you're a 50 and 60-year-old gay man anyway, like there's a bunch of other motivations probably keeping you from getting married either, right?
Maybe that too.
Like if you're 60 years old and you've lived without marriage and you lived with a partner for like already 40, 30 years, for you it's like what's the point of marriage anyway at that point? Like I know a lot of straight people who are with somebody for 30 years. My uncle was like that. He was with his partner for 30 years, never got married, man and a woman. And they died. They both died, never getting married. They just for them it was like, what's the purpose? Like
I know people like that too. I know people like that too for sure. Hold on. Someone says, read my last donation. That was $10, Dev, from Phil Swift. Jesus. Okay, I'll get to your donation. Hold on. What does it say? Jesus Christ.
How dare you ignore Phil Swift?
I was gonna check him later, but I always wondered why there has been a lack of response from right-wing YouTube to the rise of BreadTube. You don't see a lot of BreadTubers debunked videos. Why is that? Well, I mean, I've done some. I know Sargon's done a few. Like, I think it's because BreadTube is kind of on the outs at this point. Like, a lot of their channels have kind of stagnated, and the internet's moving a different way. I don't think anyone cares about BreadTube anymore, to be honest.
Well, then again, there's the fact that the dominant power is the left for now.
Yeah, for now. And, you know, Vaush is in the fortress.
Usually the oppositional power, like as Dylan said, it's like it's more. There's more traction.
Yeah, I think that's why, like, you see, you know, these new red pill communities are kind of rising up right now.
I feel kind of homeless a little bit. I feel a little homeless because I'm not a communist. I'm not a fascist. I'm not like the hardcore political extremist. I mean, like, if you were to poll me on the American political spectrum, I'm pretty left wing, right? I'm pretty like I believe like healthcare is a human right, like stuff that shit, yada yada, right? But like when you talk about like the online communities we hang out in, that's like pretty like people would call that center left on the online space, which I think also shows a disconnection between what we talk about online and what we talk about and what's important in IRL. For example, I think a lot of people thought this drag queen story hour type like the panic about this type of stuff was going to be a major motivator for people across this country to come out for the red wave. But I think people
too much Twitter.
I think people unironically cared much more about inflation, about the child tax credit, about gas prices, about student loan forgiveness. Like these are the bread and butter issues that I think people cared about a lot more. It might be motivating around certain bases on online, but it's just not motivating like IRL. And so but I've still found myself to be like politically homeless because like I feel like since I don't like fit neatly into one of these boxes, it's very difficult for me to like find a niche. Definitely since political Twitch almost feels like it's dead at this point. It's not dead. There's still people like me, IRI, and like others, but it's like it's not what it used to be.
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean.
Like a similar boat too. Like
you're a communist though. Come on, you're a
Don't you ever call me a communist. But no, I'm like a libertarian, center libertarian who's like
Yeah.
okay with some social programs, and I don't. And lots of libertarians lately are really fucking stupid on the
Dude,
Russia
I went
issue.
to LibertyCon, and I gotta say, most of the people there were nice on the issue, but holy shit, the Libertarian Party is insane on Ukraine. They got their official
God,
Twitter
the
accounts
party
tweeting
is-
out pictures of Zelensky as Hitler and shit. His family was killed in
they
the
were posting
Holocaust.
like they were posting like anti-Semitic memes with like the edited happy
Oh yeah, the
happy
FTX
merchant.
thing. The FTX conspiracy, the idea that FTX was used as a money laundering scheme to get money
Yes.
to Ukraine and then back to the Democratic Party. No evidence for it, but you see everybody repeating this shit. And they not only repeated that conspiracy theory, but they also, in the meme that they tweeted, you know, like the happy merchant, like, you know, they're like rubbing their hands together and it's a really anti-Semitic depiction of Jews. That specific depiction was reused as the FTX guy. Like, it's fuck, man. Like, I don't know what's wrong with the Libertarian Party, but like, I remember I listened to Justin Amash speak in person, and there seems to be a general vibe from all the people there that I met that are not insane, that they feel like the Mises Caucus and these psychopaths that have taken over like their public
Oh, they've
speaking
just been-
arrangements.
They've
They've
just been
destroyed
infiltrated.
them. They've destroyed their ability to like become mainstream in any way, and so now that's why a lot of libertarian parties, like local chapters, a lot of libertarian politicians are now literally just endorsing Republicans because they can't even run their own candidates anymore, so they're just going to endorse Republicans.
Yeah, it's a really sad sight. Similar thing happened with the Green Party too, where they've just been having insane people on, and the same people leave the party because they feel like they're no longer at home because what the fuck is going on?
I remember
So-
even like the ANCAPs. Like I'll like meet ANCAPs that used to be like the crazy parts of the Libertarian Party. Even they're like, we don't engage with the Libertarian
Oh.
Party because they've gotten a little too crazy. It's weird.
So, I mean, I can kind of explain it. I have to go and I have to give you a long, boring political theory reason because that's my wheelhouse is political theory at this point. I've read a lot of it, so I can like explain why this has happened. But regarding the FTX thing, I've only I don't know the truth of that story. I've only heard what everyone's saying, and I don't even know what FTX is. What is going on there? What is that story? Like what is the claim that they're making?
Basically, FTX is going through a massive financial scandal. It looks kind of like a rug pull. It's like all you need to know is that FTX basically fucked over everybody who was using it, right?
It was like a crypto exchange thing similar
Yeah.
to Binance.
And so
And-
what?
I see.
Yeah,
So
they were charging people like these. They trade in real money to buy these FTX tokens, and they would then use that to trade other crypto tokens.
Can I
And
just say,
what-
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but when somebody says, like, people talk about crypto as it's a very serious thing, and I know people have made money in crypto, I know, but when people's like, so I took my real money and I exchanged it for tokens, and I'm like, this you're gonna get scammed. Like, you're exchanging your real money for fucking tokens and like internet point. Like, I just fucking hell. Like, if I started Burns coin, it was like, you just give me your $1,000 and I'll give you 3 Burns coin, and you can exchange these 3 Burns coins. And, like, I already feel like once you've given me $1,000, it's over. You know what I mean? Like, it's done. I've gotten your money.
Yep. So,
But the idea is that that FTX was being used. Like, American aid would go to Ukraine, and then Zelensky and the Ukrainian government would take that money and then run it through FTX, and then that money would be run through FTX and it would go to the Democratic Party. There's been no evidence to substantiate any of these claims, but I'm seeing it repeated by like a lot of like far right extremists, a lot of even some far left extremists. I'm seeing it repeated by the Libertarian Party. I'm seeing it repeated by a lot of like internet people, but like nobody credible.
nobody credible is saying that it actually
credible.
was a method to basically funnel money around.
No, of course not, because like the money laundering thing, this is something they've thrown at Ukraine since the start of the war, and they can never provide any evidence for it. All these conspiracy theories, almost like 99% of the time, always end up having like not even a shred of evidence to prove it right. Like when people talk about like the Ukrainian government being overthrown by the CIA, there's like no evidence to suggest that, but they just say it. They just say it, and if you say it enough, it just becomes truth.
You know, I will say that one did seem to turn out correct, the Black Lives Matter one. When those people started buying those multi-million-dollar mansions and all the money disappeared, that seems like it might have had a ring of truth to it, you know?
Okay, look, they are warriors against racism, and they need to relax. Okay, they need their foot spas.
I see. That's how it is. Every
Yeah, it's
once in
all
a
very
while,
necessary expenditure. All right, black mentions matter. Yeah.
Black mansions matter. Listen, every once in a while, the conspiracy theory is actually true, but it's like 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 or something.
Yeah, I feel like people think
Like-
it's like 8 and 10. Like when it's like there's very rare, like MK Ultra. This is like a rare occurrence that we actually get evidence of something like this happening. Like this is a very rare occurrence, and I think a lot of people feel like there's like constantly at all times there's a million different conspiracies going on, and they're all just waiting to be exposed. And every single sign of it, it could just be like a rational explanation for it. But no, I've got a much more fun movie style explanation for what just happened, and it happens like in every single foreign affairs event, like with the missile that blew up in Poland. Now the theory, as I'm seeing pushed, is that Zelensky bombed Poland purposefully in an attempt to cause World War III. It's like, no, he didn't. It's not, you fucking have no evidence. I've seen these are 50-year-old anti-air missile S-300 Soviet age, and it's that hard to believe it fucking missed. Is really when they're using 50-year-old equipment from the Soviet Union, it's hard to imagine that they missed. It's much more likely that he purposefully aimed at a random Polish village. Yeah, okay, got you.
Ah, yes, the grain silo, you see. It's all part of Zelensky's plan.
Jesus. So we are like ridiculously off topic. I wanted to. You have to go to do your debate in 40 minutes, right? You should probably let you go
40,
earlier than that.
Yeah, no, keep me as long as possible.
Oh, really?
How come? I come to debate Yankee Tanky.
Oh.
I don't know if you've watched that debate, but this is the same. This is like an actual psychopath.
Why did you agree to it?
Why did I agree to it? Because I need to agree to more collabs. Okay.
Oh, I
need
see.
to agree to doing more things. I need to agree to do this. This big reason why I'm here. I need to get my face out there more. That I'm back from a war zone. I got shot at, so might as well get something out of it, right?
I see. I know I told you in private that basically if you want to do any sort of serious project like this, you got to have like two hustles, and the first one funds the second. And I get like the example of like Lauren Southern does her all of her movie making and her documentaries off the backs of her YouTube, right? Like,
yeah. There's no way that I can make my like Ukraine content sustainable because it's just not a profitable endeavor. I have to use my streaming to subsidize it, which is what I'm doing.
Yeah. So I actually wanted to point. I wanted to ask this out.
Right?
I could, if I ever wanted to throw my head through a wall again. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if you wanted to raise like a quick buck to get yourself back out there, it'd probably be a way to do it.
Fundraiser would be an easy way to get like maybe like $1,000. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I'll book you on it. No worries.
Yeah.
So one thing I've seen is, and I don't know, I kind of want to ask you about this particular bit of propaganda. Russians like to talk about the Kievan Rus, and the Kievan Rus being, you know the history with the Kievan Rus.
I am very bad with ancient history, but I know the general narrative. Yes. Yeah.
So like the TLDR is that from the 9th to the 13th century, there was the state called the Kievan Rus. The capital was Kiev, and it was that Rus was because it was Russian. And the idea is that both the modern Ukrainian and modern Russian ethnic group came out of this one people, and so they split off. And that's I think that's true. But that was still 1,000 years ago, so it doesn't really matter nowadays.
But when they say it was born out of that, they got to remember it's because of a marriage, right? It's not like there was like magically like this ethnic group just formed with like all the same traits and all the same cultures and all the same languages and all the same like music and thing. It was that the leader at the time, I forget his name, but some fucking important historical figure, needed to like format some alliance and like do some shit around faith, and that's why it was done. I think some people think that these borders just naturally were created because they were all the same peoples, when it was very, very political.
But from what I understand is that the Russians like to appeal to this shared ancestry as their justification for taking over and reuniting with Ukraine.
And blood and soil.
Yeah. Is that the view of it in Ukraine? Probably not. They probably view themselves as a separate people.
They view themselves very much as a separate people. Voltaire actually used to write about like the want of the Ukrainian people to be free. This idea of like Ukrainian cultural identity have existed for a very, very long period of time. You know, you've got the Ukrainian language, which is distinct from the Russian language. They have some overlap, but they're definitely different. You can tell the difference when you're listening to Russian and when you're listening to Ukrainian. They've got their own music. They've got their own clothing. They've, in some instances, have their own food. You can tell that Lviv is a very different city than Moscow. There is overlap depending on how close these cities are, definitely due to the Soviet Union and the Russian Empire's domination. People will point to the Russian language's prominence within Ukraine, and I will say that a lot of people there spoke Russian. A lot of soldiers I talked to spoke Russian. But I think a lot of people don't know why that's the case. It's the same reason why the Irish speak like English and they don't speak like their language. It was because it was, put on them. It was forced on them pretty heavily. The Russian Empire actually banned the Ukrainian language when they dominated that territory. That's why a lot of Ukrainian scholars would actually flee to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, not because the Austro-Hungarian Empire was super cool to Ukrainians, but they at least let them speak their own language. And so a lot of authors and like writers and Ukrainian speakers actually went over there so they could practice their language and practice and like study their culture and like develop literature. And so I think that there is like a history between the Russian and Ukrainian peoples, but what the Russian government seeks to do is to erase all the differences and erase like the Ukrainian history to make it seem like this is just an extension of the Russian state. Dmitry Medvedev once called Ukraineness a disease of the mind. Putin has called it like an artificial state created by Lenin, even though there were multiple Ukrainian independent states before the creation of the Soviet Union, and the Soviets actually had to invade one of those independent Ukrainian states in order to create the Soviet Union. So it's very weird to hear them talk about how Lenin created Ukraine when Lenin invaded Ukraine, took it over, and replaced the government.
Yeah, I will say that
not the case at all.
There's a very strange. It's a very strange double standard that I hear from some rightoids, where they will talk, and out of one side of their mouths, they'll talk about how terrible the Holodomor was, where the Russians tried to ethnically exterminate the Ukrainians. But now today they're just the same thing, and we shouldn't be getting involved in what is a civil war. And it's like, well, you can't hold both those opinions. You know what I mean? Like they're mutually exclusive. Either they're a separate people or they're not.
It 100% isn't like, I think there's a different country, there's a different currency, there's a different leader, there's different national anthems, there's different legislative bodies, police forces, everything. For somebody to call it a civil war at this point is just silly. It's silly. It'd be like saying the United States invaded Canada. That's a civil war because look, there's a lot of cultural similarities there. No, there's still two different countries. There's still two different people who want two different futures for their nation states. Just because there's some similarities or they have some cultural ties, like the United States has with Canada, does not mean that we should actually accept those Canucks into an American Union.
I wouldn't mind, to be honest. It'd be okay.
I mean, we'd be a bigger country, therefore we'd be better. But we probably shouldn't force it on people. It'd probably be bad.
We'll liberate Canada for you one day. All right.
From Trudeau, we'll get Trudeau the fuck out of there. Christ.
Yes,
we're gonna replace him with Hunter Biden. He's gonna be our prince. Canada.
We're gonna have like based fucking Second Amendment, but in Canada.
I'd love to see Hunter Biden in like one of those like Prince uniforms from the UK. Those like Generalissimo uniforms that like Prince Charles and the rest of them wore. I'd love to see him on horseback riding in Toronto.
Smoking a big crack pipe.
That would be fantastic. Look, I like Hunter. Okay, Hunter. I am a big advocate for Hunter 2024.
Are you actually?
Yes, I believe.
That would be a fucking shit show.
People like Joe's too sleepy. Well, this guy ain't sleepy, that's for sure. He's excitable. He's got a lot of energy. He's got experience. He's personable. He's gonna have a lot of he's relatable to working class people. Everybody knows somebody like him.
I mean, who hasn't gotten high and smoked a bunch of crack pipe?
Who hasn't smoked crack?
Snorted coke
That's my question to America.
Ass,
Who hasn't smoked crack, America? Who hasn't?
Okay, so here, hold on. Tasenko has asked, let's audit Ukraine on what they did with their funds. Oh.
Okay.
I do understand that the right wing objection is like a lot of money is flowing into Ukraine. At the very least we should figure out where it's all going, because some of them think that it's going to places it shouldn't be going.
Well, a lot of people just think we're just sending like bundles and bundles of Benjamins into Ukraine when most
we're
of the
rolling
aid
them up.
we're just giving them monies and
rubber bands.
crates, and so they can have money fight. Like, like in Simpsons.
Yeah, see, so
It's just-
most of it is
but
actually
when most
weapons,
of the
right?
aid is really
Yeah.
just like weapons and
Exactly.
equipment. Yeah.
It's
I
not
can- I
money.
can-
We're sending stuff.
I can talk to you about this for a little bit.
Okay.
So, a lot of people talk about like where's the money going, and I feel like a lot of these people don't like. You can just Google it a lot of time. You can like when people would talk about like what, hey, did you know in a call like Newman talked about $5 billion to Ukraine? Where did all that money go? You can actually go check it. You can literally go look at like where the money directly went to. Some of it went to like border security, a lot of it went to anti-corruption efforts, a lot of like you can check a lot of this money. Like you can just Google it. And so I think a lot of people just hear large sums of money going to Ukraine and then like suspicion starts forming. But you can go like check this out, a lot of it yourself. And when it comes to the weapons, and this, I will say I am slightly concerned about, as I am concerned about any weapon shipments, about stuff being taken. But from my conversations with members of the Foreign Legion and with Ukrainian soldiers, the stories of like weapons going missing seem to generally go like this. Somebody was driving a truck of grenades and like rifles and ammunition to the front line, and then once they got there, it was like, hey, one of the grenade boxes are missing. Where is it? Oh, I don't know. He does know. He's probably sold it out of the back of his truck. That's like the highest it seems to go, and that seems to be the story that I get told the most, that something like that happens. But that's very low level and very like not, hey, we're shipping these HIMARS and javelins over to fucking ISIS to like take out. It's like stuff that's being like that might like pop on the black market or end up being in the hands of local criminals, but it's like on a very small scale. So that stuff does happen. I've been told it directly by soldiers of the stories like that, but it's not on nearly as large of a scale as some people try to make it out to be. Of like people are thinking like thousands of javelins are being shipped out of the country.
All right. Yeah. See, there's
I could definitely picture that happening. Like the same corruption that happens in Russia probably happens in Ukraine.
A lot
Yeah.
of it,
Yeah.
because
On a smaller scale.
1.5 million winter uniforms just went missing.
because they're the same country, it turns out. No, okay. but yeah, like it's reasonable to ask where your money is going if you're giving them all this money. That's a reasonable question. You know, you're not being racist. You're not being like a pro-Russia simp. It's reasonable to ask the question. You know.
Yeah. It's reasonable to ask a question, but what it's not reasonable is people make assumptions. And I see that all the time, like with the FTX story, where people saying like, oh, it went to the Bidens or something. Oh, it went to here, it went to there. You have no evidence of it, okay? You just got like a bunch of questions. Like there's a gap in some data, and you're, instead of like saying, oh, that could be filled with all of these reasonable options, you're filling it with like foreign bank accounts of world leaders and the Democratic Party. And you're just jumping to the most radical conclusions you could take out of like small gaps of information that could be explained in other ways, even if it's something as dumb as a fucking accounting error.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Someone asked me
Most
this
of the
question.
time, Occam's razor rings true. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's not some kind of grand conspiracy where it's just like, oh, they're funneling money, all these bundles of Benjamins into Ukraine, and then they're
See,
taking the 10% for the big guy.
this is why I actually
That's what I
don't
heard
think.
a lot.
This is why I actually don't believe in like in the grand conspiracy theories, because if it all really was like one big backroom deal where everyone's shaking hands and everyone's like there's like a puppeteering mastermind, you know, the Supreme Court of the United States would have waited until after the midterms to repeal Roe v. Wade. But they didn't. It was a massive tactical blunder because they all don't actually work together, you know?
That's something I need. Like, for example, a lot of people say like Zelensky and Ukraine, they're like our puppets, right? People talk about this all the time, and people like bring up the
They
Euromaidan
complain
revolution.
about the West
Yeah.
all the time, though.
all the time. But here's a great example I can give you of like how I don't think it's that simple, and like there's a lot of parts working against each other. People bring up this phone call by Victoria Nuland as like as an example of America, where we were talking about like, I think this guy should accept this deal, and I think that this guy should do this, and they're like, she's giving her opinion. She's an American official giving her opinion. A lot of people show that as like evidence that like we were actually like controlling Ukraine's from behind the scenes during the Euromaidan revolution. What a lot of people don't mention is in that phone call, many of the things she recommends, the Ukrainians do the exact opposite of it. They in the conversation, she was recommending that the protesters actually accept the deal that Viktor Yanukovych was offering them, and they didn't. They did the exact opposite. They didn't offer the deal, and they put enough pressure on Yanukovych that he eventually fled the country. So when people like talk about these grand conspiracies, like for them it's like almost impossible to imagine that two forces could like working together that could like have a disagreement or not have complete control over the other. Like in multiple times Ukraine has done things that they haven't communicated with the United States. Like calling Ukraine our puppet is very, very reductionist, and it takes away, I think, a lot of the what's the word, agency that Ukrainians have.
Right, makes sense. I'm going to answer this question because I got sent it. So he's saying this in my voice. SFO: abortion is a necessary evil, but euthanasia should be illegal. Pro-abortion points apply to the sick. Listen. I do view abortion as a necessary evil. I also view euthanasia as a necessary evil. I don't think euthanasia should be illegal. I just think that Canada's having some real bad problems implementing it right now.
There's some issues with that arises from it, like that critics have pointed out, and now they're getting proven correct because, like, well, they actually are fucking using euthanasia as a suggestion to curb poverty and old age. It's just like, oh wow,
Canada's fucked right now on this topic.
Mental health. I mean, like, there's things like that you can agree that's like people should have like a right to, but then you can also acknowledge the problems that arises from it and what we should do to tackle that.
Yeah, Canada's having some serious problems. I don't know if you followed this, Dylan, but Canada's having some serious problems right now with its euthanasia law. There are people who are just opting to kill themselves because they're poor.
Heard about that.
And like, there's part of the law specifically says that medical personnel should not be the ones to like bring it up. It has to be something that they choose, but that's just being flagrantly disregarded. That like medical personnel are like going, "You should kill yourself, dude." And it's like, Jesus Christ, fuck.
Oh my God, I gotta tell you, like modern warfare has trained a generation of youth for this job. Okay, to tell people to go kill themselves.
Fuck. It's getting pretty fucked up here though, because people don't want to maybe talk about how the policy as written, or at least as being implemented, is bad. No one wants to say that for some reason.
I believe I believe euthanasia should be an option made available to people, but like when I think of euthanasia, I always thought about like an old woman who is sick, who's going through a lot of pain, choosing to end her own life because she doesn't want to have to go through 6 months of pointless suffering, right? And I've had this conversation with like my grandparents, and I've had this conversation with a lot of elderly people who like that decision was put in my hands of like, hey, I want to make sure that like if something happens and I'm incapacitated, please allow me to please go through with this option. Like this is a very difficult conversation for families to have. I've always been in favor of like making sure families have that maneuverability, and there isn't going to be a situation where paperwork causes a grandma to just suffer for 3 months.
So the ultimate issue that I had, I did the video on it because I looked into the main judge who was ruling on the lawsuit that eventually made euthanasia legal in Canada. And in her memoir, she talks about how she had this traumatic experience being asked to illegally kill her husband when he was suffering. And I was like, Jesus, maybe you might be a bit biased on this topic. Maybe you shouldn't be the judge who ruled on it. You know, it's possible. And also there's also ended up being like a weird financial incentive because the judge's daughter was also a lawyer in the advocacy group that was pushing for the euthanasia option. And I'm like, this doesn't seem right. There's something weird going on here. So I did a video talking about how there might be some strange conflicts of interest in what's going on in Canada right now.
Are you in favor of people having the option to end their own life?
Yes, I am. Yes. But I do think that there was just some strange things that happened here in Canada in us getting to that point. And maybe that might be the source of why we're having so many problems right now.
Yeah, I think I'm generally like, I don't know what your position on abortion is, but
necessary evil. I am 51-49 pro-choice. Necessary evil.
I'm generally pro-choice guy. I guess for me, the reason why I'm pro-choice is I don't view a fetus as having the same moral weight as like a human being, like a fully developed human being. Definitely like during early stages of development when they have no like they have no experience, they have no ability to like, experience the world. Mm-hmm. And so like I view it, and this is a weird way to put it, but like I do believe it's life, but I view it as the same way I view like a blade of grass. Like it doesn't have feelings, it doesn't have emotions, it doesn't have taste, touch, feel, like it doesn't have these things. And so like to say that these things are the same moral capability, has the same moral weight as like a full-grown human, I don't like almost find it, I don't want to say I almost find it insulting, but I find it kind of like ridiculous. Like I do think there should be like a line somewhere, but I don't think, I think that the moment of conception, I think argument is a little silly when
Yeah.
it comes to like
Yeah.
human life. It's life.
No,
It's
life
not human
begins
life,
at ejaculation.
And ejaculation. Well, actually, Lilith, you and I did that stream like 6 months ago going over all the various abortion arguments. And I was like, listen, there's some grotesque stuff on the left, too, because I found that video. There was that one Asian lady who was talking about how there's like there's new legislation that will allow we're not doing the afterbirth thing that ended up being false, but like there was one person who basically said that you could get an abortion all the way up until birth if you had a mental health problem, and I'm like that's kind of a bit much. I don't like third trimester abortions generally. That's
Yeah.
that seems too much. There was that hidden camera of the doctor in New Jersey who was saying that like, yeah, so if your baby survives an abortion, we'll just kill it. And it's like holy shit, dude. Like I think that the left is pushing too far right
it's
now.
just healthy at that point. Just like
Yeah.
do the paperwork and give it up for adoption. It's just like it's not no longer your body anymore.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it, or nothing you should be able to do.
I think on the abortion topic, there's components of the left that are going way too fucking far with some of this shit for my taste, and I'm just like, nope, can't get behind that. No way. You know.
I guess for me, it's just like I think like the left is generally very on guard about this topic right now, considering the overturning of Roe versus Wade. For a lot of young people, it feels kind of like they were born with this ability, like this enshrined right to get it, like to access this medical treatment, and now it feels like it was taken away, and they're all very, very defensive. And so, like, if there's anything that even seems like the slightest restriction on abortion, they're very scared of that, like, tumbling tumbleweed, you know, coming to take their rights away. So I think that's a big reason why you're not going to see like much from Democrats of anything like, well, maybe we should limit abortion here, because they feel like they're on the defense now.
Yeah.
For something they didn't have.
They
to
should
be on
though.
defense for the last 50 years.
They fucking should though. But I know what you mean. Yeah, there's like what you should do, and then there's like how people feel, and then what's like politically effective. Like these are all different conversations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know in Canada, like it's handled in the provinces for Canada, so each province has its own standard, but they all have to provide some sort of abortion, but they can all choose what the limits are, and most of them limit it around 20 weeks, and it's like, okay, fine, you know, fair enough.
Somebody asked if I ever seen a video of an abortion. I believe so. I think
have,
when I
yeah.
was like 12, like somebody
12?
sent me it or something. Probably. I mean,
What the
you know how the
why
internet
12?
is. You know how the internet is. People
Yeah, I
link
guess
you
so,
stuff
yeah.
to fuck with you, like something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. No, I've seen one too. I was older than 12, I think, but probably not. I was probably like 15. It was
It
definitely
didn't really.
like
It didn't
like
really
a
inspire
download.
any emotions in me. I didn't like. I think maybe disgust was my.
Yeah, it was
primary, 'cause
gross. It was gross. So yeah,
Yeah.
so for me,
You watch any surgery or anything like that, it's
Mhm.
it's always gonna
So-
evoke a feeling of disgust, though.
So for me, it's like, you know, I'm old enough that if you're gonna go download porn back in the day, there was no Pornhub. You go to Kazaa and you open a Kazaa up or something, right? And you download your porn.
Kazaa.
Yeah. So I would punch in looking for a porn video, and then I would download it, and it was an abortion video. And I'm like, ah, fuck. Thanks.
I did something.
Thanks,
that's
internet
way more
troll.
basic. I googled booby.
Booby to see the booby.
Booby. I had a PSP growing up, and so that was my main device, because I was like, nobody's gonna
Porn on the
use it.
PSP.
Porn on the PSP. Yep.
Jesus.
Yep.
Damn.
I would have to download the videos to watch them. But nobody ever suspected it, you know?
Yeah, it's dude. When you have to use like the family computer, it's a lot harder. You have to be really careful.
And it's
like it's in the living room, and you're like constantly listening out with like one headphone off.
it's not worth it. It's just not worth the struggle. Right?
Hey, I never got caught. I was good at it.
Good job. I did. So
You did? Wait, you got
did.
caught with your PSP?
no, not with my PSP. I also used the family computer at one point, and I forgot to like wipe the history.
Hold on. Dragonfat says, breaking news, Dimitri Monroe's cock leaked. Really? Hold on, let me...
How big? But I don't.
Smaller than I thought, to be honest. Considering Dimitri. Jesus, how did these nudes get leaked, dude? Also, I thought Dimitri's whole thing was that he just trolled at being like a lewdster. He was one. Oh, well, his dick's out there now.
Well,
That's how it is, I guess.
Dick
To be fair,
Dimitri.
listen, Dimitri. I don't know. Do you know who Dimitri Monroe is?
I just looked them up. They're a Sonic YouTuber.
Yeah, but also like
What's
one
with?
of the-
Do you see their? Do you see their banner?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
It's a
So-
very suggestive.
So Dimitri Monroe is one of the most. Hold on. One of the first famous femboys, if that makes sense.
Really?
No. I think they're like. I think they're like femboys before.
Oh my God!
Dimitri.
I accidentally showed her on the screen.
Did you
Yeah.
actually?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Maybe that's the end of the show.
Wow.
Ah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I have
Sorry,
to go
Dylan,
and
no war stories today. I showed
Maybe-
a man's
No.
cock.
maybe I have to go and do something with this mod for a minute. Okay. All right.
Ah.
Dragonfat's so happy. I'm gonna get you banned finally. Dev, delete the stream. I will re-upload it with a censored version. Okay. Fuck. Wow.
I
like
if
how
we are ending stream.
Yeah.
We didn't get to talk about any war stories. I mean,
I was interviewing you
Yeah.
about your experience, and like we got to the point where you get to the front line, and then we just stopped.
Yeah. Then we stop at the start place where we start talking about drones and
Well-
artillery
Yeah,
and stuff.
fucking-
Well,
Blue
here's
ball.
what I'll do. Okay, so chat, real quick. I'm gonna post in the chat the playlist where Dylan puts up all of his videos about his experiences in Ukraine. So go check that out. If you want, Dylan, we can
Right.
talk again.
Dope.
talk again about stuff?
I'd be happy to talk again. Why not?
We'll
That'd be
do that at
cool.
some point in the future. I set it up so that once we end the stream should auto redirect to Arch's Archcast, because Arch and Kibbs are still talking about Superman over there. And also, I guess if you don't want to go watch Arch and Kibbs, you can go watch Dylan, because you're gonna go debate somebody on your Twitch channel right now, eh?
Yeah, I'm gonna go debate somebody about Ukraine. It's gonna be terrible.
About Ukraine?
Honestly, I'm warning you guys a little bit against it. This is gonna be a fucking toxic, horrible experience. I can already see the Yankee Tanky. The debate's supposed to be in 14 minutes.
Link it. I would
He's
like to see that.
already been muted by the mods.
I'll put
Because-
put your Twitch channel in the chat as well if you want to go see that.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Apparently,
Definitely.
apparently the cock didn't appear on the screen. Jesus, I hope
Okay, that's good.
Fantastic.
not.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Well, now you're just a dick tease.
To be fair, I've done this before. Remember that one where I accidentally showed Goatsay on the screen? That was a few years ago.
Ah,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
I
and-
think I had some
and- and-
memories of that.
And then I think there was like that one girl I accidentally showed her nudes. They were in my DMs, and I was like, "Shit, I didn't know I had it up." I think I've done this a few times. I'm just used to it at this point. I'm just used to my channel getting fucked like every 3 months. That's just how it goes, you know.
Do you think you learn at some point, right?
Well, I rewatched. You're lucky, Dev. There's no PP. Okay. Oh God, Jesus, what a fucking relief that is. Okay, thank you, chat. Thank you for going back to watch. I appreciate it, everyone. I appreciate saving my ass from my own stupidity.
Do we
I've
have time
got-
to go to the war stories just a little bit though?
We
Because I
can-
saw
we can
that the
probably
recent
do
one
one.
with you.
Okay, do one
at
war
the
story before we
Ukrainian
go out of here.
hospital.
Okay,
Okay,
so
go
which
ahead.
one do you want? Do you want the one at the Ukrainian hospital?
Sure.
Yeah, there was a one where you go with
Sure.
that.
So this was pretty deep into my adventures, or whatever you want to call it, in Ukraine. I
Mhm.
was headed down south towards Mykolaiv. Mykolaiv is in southern Ukraine. It's at the time it was 20 miles probably. Not, I don't even know. It depends on where I was around Mykolaiv, but it was not that far from the front line. Yeah, it was within artillery range for a lot of the longer range artillery. The city was, and definitely the villages around it were within artillery range.
And I believe
and
this was
so-
before the big Kherson offensive, right?
That's actually the interesting part, because what we didn't know when we were going down to Mykolaiv, because we were going down there to deliver aid to a local dog shelter, which takes in abandoned dogs that have been like either injured by the war or like abandoned by their owners, and to film across the river from the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, which has been in the news a lot because the Russians fought for it, like an administrative building caught on fire, and we're talking about like the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. Like this is a major energy producer for Ukrainians. I think it produces like 20% of Ukraine's electricity. It powers the homes of 400,000 people, and it's an active nuclear power plant that has had explosions like 300 feet away from the reactor. And so obviously there's a lot of concern. And so the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Commission, was going down to actually inspect the plant and look at it because there had been rumors and video leaked of the Russians storing weapons in the power plant. And
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant Russian military tactics, once again showing. So I wanted to go down there.
He remains a master strategist.
Putin is a master strategist. So we wanted to go down there because to deliver this aid, and so I could film across the power plant and talk to locals. And so I was going down with two guys. One guy's called Pavel. He's Polish dude. I don't know how much I can talk about his past, but he's kind of like a grittier kind of. He's very much like a soldier. He's very much kind of like that guy, the kind of that like vet TV, that kind of like edgy type of. He's like that, but Polish. And the other guy was a guy called Philip. He's more of a stoner type, laid back guy. Both aid workers, both delivering aid. And so I embedded with them, and we went down south to Mykolaiv. And the first thing I did is I went to a local hospital, and I interviewed the hospital staff. And throughout the day, we had heard artillery like in the distance, making impacts, but it was always in the distance. And the thing is with artillery at a distance is it just sounds like a thunderstorm, but with none of the rain and none of the lightning.
It's like a distant clap.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a distant like thunder. It feels like we always called it thunder without the storm. That's what Philip ended up naming it. And so we went to this hospital in that environment. We talked to the hospital director, and he gives us access to go to a trauma center that was bombed by the Russian military. And so for us, that's like great. We have like access to go film in the wreckage and like show it, and we go and we do that.
Just out of curiosity, is the footage on your YouTube channel?
Of what I'm about to say, not of a little bit of the trauma center, but everything I'm about to say is on my YouTube channel.
Okay,
actually, it's on my YouTube channel.
So after the story, you can go watch it. I made sure to pin the comment, so go check it out, guys. But let's hear what's going on.
So we were on top of the hospital. We were just gonna record like an end of video, like this hospital, da 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 da, and then we hear like a clap in the distance, and we look to our left, and there's a smoke, like a trail of smoke that would be left by either a jet or a missile. So it was a missile. And then we hear another clap and another clap. And we realize that about half a mile from us, the Russians are bombing something with missiles. And so we try to turn the camera towards it. We don't get much of a shot, but we were very lucky to be on the roof of a building while this was going on. We just didn't get the camera shot. We got the audio, but we didn't get the camera shot. It was like 4 or 5 explosions from rockets. And we saw some of the anti-air fire actually being fired at the rockets, trying to knock them out of the sky before they made impact. And so we're like, wow, that's a pretty interesting end to this interview at the hospital. We get off, we talk about it, like what's going on, like why are they straight, what is over there, what are they trying to hit, like like we're just talking about it. But then we're like, there's been a busy day, let's go get something to eat. And I, being an American fat American, I wanted to get a steak and milkshake. And so we go
fat moment.
Hold on. It better be well done and dipped in ketchup.
It was fantastic, actually. They really know how to cook steaks over in Ukraine. And so I had a fantastic steak and milkshake. We're eating at this like little restaurant diner place. It's in an area of the town full of restaurants and apartment buildings and homes. Like it's kind of like we're in the city center, so to speak. And so while we're in there, I start getting messages from people like, "Yo, you're in Mykolaiv. The offensive just started." I was like, what? The counteroffensive. The Ukrainians are launching a massive counteroffensive right next to you, like towards the Russians. Like, be careful.
Jesus.
And I'm like, fuck off, right? Because I get told that shit all the time. Like, hey, Dylan, today's the day, right? And sometimes it's from less credible people, and most of the time it is. And so I just kind of like ignore it. I say, well, if something happens, and I had some idea it was going to happen. But the first person, it's like uncredible people. Then more credible people start texting me like, hey, Dylan, like, be careful. You're in Mykolaiv. Like, it's going to get bad.
The uncredible people know they're uncredible.
No, they don't. They think they're the most credible. Because they're usually just Twitter accounts. They're usually just people who would like reposted information online and like other people's info, and that's how they got popular. And so now they're just doing that, and they think they're like the perfect ascent person, when all they do is just repeat what other people have already told them. But after I get like the fifth or sixth text, the news articles start showing up. Counteroffensive launched. And so I'm looking over the film and I'm looking over the public. He's like, do you see the shit? Like, we're right here. Like, this is right next to us. This is going on. Can we get an embed? Because my mind is immediately like, can we get an embed with these soldiers? But what we're being told is it's a complete media blackout. So we don't know what's going on when it comes to this counteroffensive. We don't really know the fine details. One second. Sorry, somebody came in. But we don't know the fine details. They're not telling us because we had a complete media blackout. And what that means is they're not letting media with these soldiers, and they're not like telling people anything, and they're telling people to shut the fuck up, right? Basically, if you do know something, and I was being told things, I had to shut the fuck up about it. And so we're like, fuck. So we can't really get in the embeds of doing media blackout.
Loose sink ships after all. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, is this going to impact our aid delivery? Because we need to do an aid delivery. And they're like, actually, our route to do an aid delivery is very, very close to what the front line is. So it's going to be an area like 2 to 3 miles from Russian positions we're talking about. So we're talking about well within like shelling range. And I've been within a mile of the Russian position before, and it was not fun. Because we had to like run away from drones that had spotted us and like hide in the trees and shit. It was not a fun time. So I was thinking about like, fuck, so this is gonna make our delivery like so much harder. So then we get out of the building, we start walking towards this blue van, which was a savior to us because it was like an actual van with air conditioning, which was like holy shit. That was like heaven. We had space and shit instead of our Skoda with no suspensions. And so I'm walking towards the van, and then an artillery shell just falls 200 feet to my right. Just explodes right there.
Right, I saw that.
And
like in your video.
It was very, very close. Shrapnel could have hit me. And thankfully I had been carrying my camera. So I pressed the record button. There's no intro. We're just on the wall now. Like, fuck, what's happening? And then 1 more, 2, 3, 4. Artillery just starts hitting one after another. Like every 20 to 30 seconds, there would be another explosion. And so we're like on the wall trying to hide behind this tiny little divot in the wall. And I'm trying to speak to the camera. Like, currently we're in the city of Mykolaiv. We were just told the Kherson counteroffensive has been launched. The Russians are responding with an artillery bombardment. I'm trying to like say coherent words into the camera. Because, you know, I'm trying to concentrate on staying safe, making sure I get a good shot, and making sure that like everybody else with me, Philip and Pavel, are safe. And then like after the 7th like explosion, which hits really, really close to us, we're talking about, do we get closer? Do we get away because of double taps? But it's just getting closer and closer. And so eventually we make the decision, due to how close these shells were falling, to get in the van and drive away. And so that's what we do. We get in the van and we drive away. Now, the thing is with these vehicles is I fucking hate these cars. I hate these vans. I hate these vehicles. Because when I was in Zaporozhye, we were actually like, I think 2 miles from the Russian position or 3 miles from the Russian position. And our van just broke down. Literally just broke down while we were spotted by a drone. Like a drone was literally hovering above us, and the fucking thing broke down. And we were just waiting for like artillery to kill us. That's why I always called those things like portable coffins, or just like coffin cars, because those things have no armor. If an artillery shell hits it, you're fucked. All the videos you see online are of artillery shells hitting like vans or armored vehicles and just being torn to shreds. And so I knew there was nothing I could do to protect myself in that van or in those cars when I was in Zaporozhye, because there's no armor. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to hide it behind the engine, because at least that's something solid that might be able to stop shrapnel if it hits it the right way. And I mean, I remember I was a mile from the Russians and that same van broke down. And like every single time, it was extremely frustrating because it has nothing to protect you. And so we're driving away in this van that essentially has no armor on it, just hoping it doesn't hit us. And after we drive for like 1 mile to 2 miles, where all you're doing in there is you're just sitting there just being like, you know, and this is always how I rationalize it. If it hits me, right, I'm not going to feel it. I'm not gonna it's not gonna be like a moment where it's like, oh no, I'm dying, I'm just gonna be dead, right?
You might feel it for a second.
maybe, but by the time I realize what's going on, I'm already gone. And that was always like a comfort to me, right? realizing like thinking about like, yeah, if I'm dead, I'm dead. Like I won't care, right? So it's driving away, and I know that's a very callous way to put it, but that was the rationalization process. It was also statistics. I used a lot of statistics in those moments to say like, hey, like odds are out of 100, maybe there's like 2 in 5, like a 2 in 100 to a 5 in 100 to a 20 in 100 chance that I get hit. So odds are I don't die here, right? That was also a comfort to me. But we're driving away, and we're able to get 2 miles away, and we park to the side of the road. I get out. I sit down. I'm like, fuck, that is the closest an artillery shell's ever hit me. I'm trying to like gather my breath because like an artillery, like that was really close. It could have, if it just hit me the wrong way. The thing is with artillery and shrapnel and all these things is they're just hunks of metal being thrown around, and you can really just be torn in half. It's just like hunks of metal. The tiniest bit of metal, if it hits your neck, you're fucked, right? It's really crazy how small these things are and how they can just tear you up. Just completely kill you in an instant.
These moments where you realize just how vulnerable the human body actually is.
Humans are unbelievably fragile. Definitely when you're talking about like metals and explosions and these types of things, which can tear you in half, traveling at insanely high speeds. And so I'm at this new place trying to gather my bearings, and then another artillery shell falls within like 150 to 200 feet away from me at this new location. And at that moment, I realized they weren't just peppering one location; they were peppering the entirety of the city center. They were just shelling anything that moved.
Fucking hell.
Don't move.
But then we decide to get in the van and we drive away. And we drive. And the rest of the day, we were basically just chasing these bomb sites, trying to get photos, trying to get pictures, and also trying to stay safe. Because anytime the sirens blared, we're like, okay, we got to get cover. We got to get out of the city center. We got to get to the city outskirts. And we're having arguments like the whole day. Like, do we go through with this delivery? Like, maybe we shouldn't. Like, this artillery is really bad. Like, no, we need to get this stuff in there. We need to get the film. We decided going through with the trip. We decided to go through with it. But like that whole night, it was constant artillery bombardments, constant sirens. It was constant. And that's when I knew that this counteroffensive was serious, because the Russians aren't doing that for fun. They're doing that because they're panicking and they didn't know what to do. And ultimately, as we've seen, the Kherson counteroffensive was successful. And I was there for the first day. And that was the first day of what would end up being Ukraine's most successful counteroffensive. And now I know why they were panicking so much. It's because they were getting fucking clocked. Ultimately, like it was like, I think in those bombardments 2 people ended up dying and 24 others were injured, and for whatever reason I wasn't one of them.
Glad you're not one of them, because otherwise you wouldn't be making content and being awesome.
I only care about the videos.
You're right.
I only care.
Very sad.
Wow, yeah, no, we should have spent more of the stream talking about shit like that. Oh well.
Maybe next time.
It's okay. Hey, look, if we have another talk, I can give more stories. I got more stories from other locations, just like it.
Yeah, and so just to quickly wrap up, you're back in the U.S. You've decided to return in January to go do more.
January, February. I want to go back in January, maybe, if I can, because I want to do a story about how cold this winter is and how the Russians are targeting the electricities to make it so the Ukrainians, they're literally trying to freeze them to death, to be quite blank. And they talk about this on Russian state TV, like, we must teach the Ukrainian people a lesson. We must like drag them back in line, and we shall use our old ally, Mother Winter, to do it. Like, it's like fucking deranged bullshit.
Fucking hell.
To be fair, that's like, you know, they said that about the Germans and the French. So yeah. Yeah,
the difference is they're the ones invading, so their soldiers are gonna be the ones fucking dying, freezing to death. So it's yeah. Anyway, I need to head out. I'm late for the debate. I had a great time talking to you. If you ever want to talk again, just message me. I'd love to tell you more stories if stuff like that interests you.
We'll show more dick pics.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Get Dev's channel taken down. It'll be
absolutely
be a grand time.
Fantastic. Then I can go back to my leftward community. I can be like, look what I did. I slayed another beast.
I destroyed a fascist.
I destroyed a fascist. Give me credit.
All right, thanks for being here, man.
Awesome. You have a good one, okay?
Yeah, see ya.
Have a good one, Dylan.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes, he had to run because he's going to go do his debate on his channel that he's 2 minutes late for. We caused him to be late. So that was Dylan.
Your lateness is rubbing off on other people.
It is. He's definitely more progressive than I am, but that's fine. You know, I can talk to people who are different as long as they're cool. And Dylan's pretty cool in the end. And also, like, I think the war reporter thing is actually pretty exceptional. You know, not everyone has the balls to do that.